Good morning and happy game day. If you're a Tennessee Volunteers fan, they got the Music City Bowl against Illinois. In just a few hours from now, we'll talk about the game, talk about the implications of the game. We had a fun Monday Night Football game last night. Falcons came out inspired. They end up squeaking by the Rams, who rally back in the second half. 27-24 was the final there, and Falcons playing nothing but spoiler, but showing some, I think Joe Buck called it inspired performance on defense. We know that they invested a lot in their defense this offseason. James Pierce continuing to have a nice season in Atlanta. A couple of rookies having a nice season in Atlanta, making plays all over the place. We got Nate Washington today here in just about 15 minutes from now, because we are not on locally on Thursday. Because it's Thursday? Thursday's New Year's Day, right? Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Yes.
Sure. That whole game.
What do you mean, sure?
The Falcons up 21-0, and I'm thinking Rams are going to win this game. Like, at no point during that game did I think the Rams were going to lose the game until they lost the game.
Oh, strong disagree. Like, I thought that Matt Stafford chasing was going to be fun, and it ended up being fun. But honest to God, I thought it was over after Bijan broke that 93-yarder.
The entire time the Falcons had a lead, I'm just sitting there thinking, no, Rams are going to come back and win this game. And then the Rams came back, and they tied it at 21, or 24, rather. And I thought, okay, Rams are definitely going to win this game. And then they didn't. Until that field goal went through the uprights for the Falcons to win 27-24, I thought the Rams were going to win the football game. And even at the end, Puka Nacua is that close to making a circus catch to putting the Rams in field goal range to send the game to overtime. He had some incredible moments again, but yes, the Matt Stafford death picks ended the Rams' hopes last night and potentially ended his hopes for the MVP, if we're going to do the recency bias thing.
Ooh. Because it's really just a two-horse race between him and Drake May at this point in time.
Yep.
If the Patriots end up as the number one overall seed, it's over, right? Like, he's a lock, May is.
Yes, but it will take a lot for that to happen. Patriots would need help.
Yeah, and we have some playoff scenarios that we can go through with you guys today and tomorrow ahead of the final week of the regular season. I really think that it's kind of a curious discussion about the roster building element that we were having yesterday, if we want to just bring things local. Have the Falcons done a good job putting together their roster?
Falcons fans got to be so annoyed at just getting red hot at the end of the year after already being eliminated.
Yeah, and doing it with the quarterback that's not going to be there next year, right? We're assuming that Kirk Cousins will not be the backup quarterback in Atlanta next year. I mean, he's still technically under contract, but reasonable to believe that once the cap hit gets a little bit lower and they can move on from him without just taking it, just getting throat punched essentially by the financials of his deal, that's probably not great. Also, Kyle Pitts is going to be a free agent, and he's playing like it because he's due a big contract. He's had a really nice streak of about 4 games at this point in time where he's led all tight ends in receptions over the course of the last month so far this season.
But that's very heavily balanced by one monster performance mixed into some pedestrian performances, I would say.
Sure, but he's still going to get paid, and Atlanta's not going to be the one to pay him, right? Like, you're not going to pay Kyle Pitts a big money contract to stick around there. And he's looked like, this is the first time since his rookie season, basically, that he's looked like a legit threat.
Again, for a game, but like, if you take away, and you can't take it away because it happened, and he did that. He had, 11 catches for 166 yards and 3 touchdowns in that Bucs game a few weeks ago. But without that game, it's kind of just another season of what we've seen from Kyle. I mean, he had 3 catches for 16 yards yesterday. You're right. He's going to be a very highly sought-after free agent tight end, and the measurables are all still there, and he's an exciting talent. He has not had any consistency whatsoever at quarterback in Atlanta, but that one game does boost his numbers a lot this year.
But again, you didn't answer my question, either of you. Did the Falcons do a good job building their roster?
I don't know.
How would you, okay, I'm going to answer your question with another question. How would they, is there a way they were supposed to do it or a way that you're angling for this? Because I would say yes.
I'm inclined to agree with you because they do have playmakers. Theoretically, they have their quarterback situation figured out, though I don't know what he's going to look like coming back off the knee injury, Penix. But let's just assume that for the immediate future, Michael Penix is the quarterback of the Falcons. They gave up draft capital. Last night was the draft capital bowl, right? Because the Falcons traded their first-round picks to the Rams for the right to draft James Pierce, because now the Falcons, and it's why it was important for the Rams to win that game, to make the Falcons' draft position better in that particular situation. The Rams now own the Falcons' first-round pick in 2026, and you were looking at it the way that they went about it and saying, okay, but are you really that close that you can afford to trade away that kind of draft capital for James Pierce, who's had a nice season for a rookie by any stretch of the imagination? I think, did I hear Joe Buck say correctly? Maybe the two of you caught this on the broadcast, that the Falcons rookies lead all rookies in sacks this year. Like, of all the defensive rookies that are playing, Abdul Carter, I know the Steelers drafted a defensive tackle in the first round.
That makes sense because they did draft two guys that can get to the quarterback in the first round. Like James Pierce Jr. and Jalen Walker have combined for, 14 sacks this year between the two of them? So, yeah, that adds up.
And so
got to turn your mic on to talk.
Hit the wrong button. And so
Leonard Floyd had a sack last
back
night.
and forth. Leonard Floyd has been around for 100 years at this point. I go back and forth on this because I don't know if the Falcons have done a good job building their roster or if the coaching staff isn't getting as much out of them all season long as the talent, at least the talent profile, would say. Atlanta should be a better football team, right?
Atlanta should be a better football team. You have a stud running back, a solid offensive line situation, a true number one wide receiver in Drake London, burgeoning young pass rushers, which you have not had in a long time, in Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. in the middle of that defense. Atlanta should be a roster that, at the very least, contends for the weakest division in the NFL. Ironically, they could very well end up having the same record as the division champ at 8-9 if they end up taking care of business next week.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to participate. Also, the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is available to you if you would like to interact there. Duck Falling on YouTube says, y'all know I live in Atlanta. I didn't, but now we know. So, he says, Terry Fontenot, the general manager, has done a great job of getting the roster together. Remember last year, the Falcons were 6-3 before Kirk Cousins went to, he says a word that I can't say, but went to poop, essentially. And after his explosive performance on a Thursday night against the Bucs, what was that, in October? That was the same weekend that Vanderbilt upset Alabama, I remember, because it was the Titans' bye. The Falcons really petered out that way. He adds, in his estimation, Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, who was with the Rams and also interviewed. Didn't he interview for the head coaching job here? Zach Robinson?
I can't remember if he was on that list, but
one of the early candidates that interviewed. Either way,
yeah, Falcons fans
that
not
the OC
happy.
has been trash.
Yeah, Falcons fans have not been happy with that experience at all. Like I feel like it may be more likely that Zach Robinson gets the axe than Raheem Morris.
Yeah, how many people are actually going to get fired this year? Because I feel like I'm just looking at the Raiders being like, are you really going to do this with Pete Carroll moving forward? But beyond that, I don't think anybody else is. I don't know. There's going to be one surprise.
Somebody's going to get fired. Jonathan Gannon, I don't know what his situation's going to be. I mean, one has already been fired in Brian Callahan.
No, what I'm
Brian
saying is
Dable's already been fired.
Giants, Titans, Raiders, and whom?
Yeah, maybe Cardinals.
But beyond that, Mike McDaniel's not getting fired.
But yeah, a lot of the bottoming out teams, the Raiders, last place, first-year head coach. The Saints, last place, first-year head coach. The Jets, same thing. So, yeah, if Zach Taylor's not going to get fired, then Kevin Stefanski, I guess would be the other name I would throw on that pile.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Corey is in Columbia.
Morning, gentlemen. I just wanted to pose a question to you guys and to Titans fans. Kyle Pitts being a free agent, would we want Kyle Pitts here in Tennessee if the price made sense? I don't want to overpay for him, but would he be an upgrade over Chig?
I mean, yeah, but I don't think so much so worth the money, right? At that point, just keep Chig. Thanks for the call.
Someone's going to overpay for Kyle Pitts, and there's a world in which it works, and he realizes the potential we've been talking about since he was drafted out of Florida.
No.
But there's also a world where it's an overpay, and that's just what it is, and he continues to be the same player that can pop on any given night, but largely pedestrian numbers.
At that point, just keep Chig. I mean, I know he's bigger and faster. Like, he's a higher-end version of what Chig might end up being. I think we're still kind of, I don't know. I feel like we kind of understand what Chig is at this point in his career. If Kyle Pitts ends up making double what Chig does, and on a long-term deal, right? Because we're assuming that Kyle Pitts is going to cash in not just in terms of average annual value, but in terms of years. Like, I'm assuming there would be a significant amount of guaranteed money across several years on that Kyle Pitts deal, whereas Chig, I feel like you could get him. I feel like you could keep Chig. You could sign Chig as a free agent for a one-year deal, and I honestly think that you might be able to get away with a one-year deal here and just let him prove it. Give him legit money. Give him, what did we talk about yesterday? 7.5, maybe 8 tops on a one-year deal, and be like, all right, bud, you've been a good soldier. We're going to compensate you here. And if you have a bigger year and we feel like we're building towards something and you want to be a part of that, and Gunnar Helm and you can work in conjunction, and the next head coach, I suppose the next head coach would have a say in that. But depending on the style of offense that they want to play, why not just keep him?
I think tight end is going to be one of the more interesting positions in free agency this year, because I noted the stat earlier this season, but it's changed because Mark Andrews was re-signed. 70% of the league's starting tight ends were due to hit free agency. Now, when supply meets demand and overwhelms demand, prices can go down. So and back to your point about Kyle Pitts being extended for multiple years, he's only 25. He will turn 26 October 6th of next year. So a long-term deal would be expected, because I could see a lot of general managers thinking, hey, this guy hadn't even hit his peak yet. But with the number of tight ends that are hitting the market, I think that will hurt the value of tight ends going forward. And a pretty good tight end class in the draft as well.
Well, we can talk to Nate Washington about this, whether Nate thinks it'd be a good idea to keep Chigakonkwo. We'll also talk to him about last night's game. He was texting me thoughts about the way that the Falcons' offensive coaching staff approached it, and how it was basically what he was screaming for the Titans to do with Cam Ward all season long. So we'll talk to Nate Washington coming up next. Welcome back to the show. Nate Washington going to join us here in just a little bit. Appreciate him adapting to our schedule. In the meantime, we can take some calls. 615-737-1045 is the number. Michael is in Nashville next. Hey, Michael.
Hey.
What's up?
Hey, I just want to know your thought about, I keep reading on Titans page that I follow Matt Nagy being the front runner, but is there a chance that Nagy could be the head coach and Brian DeBall as the offensive coordinator? And I'll hang up and listen.
Brian Daboll?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the call.
No, I think he had it correct.
DeBall?
Brian DeBall, dang, da dang, diggy, diggy.
Great song.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. No, I won't.
They were playing it before kickoff at Nissan Stadium, which I thought was weird. A little Kid Rock flavor at the Titans game.
It's a great song.
No, I don't know. What would Daboll do? I think he's going to be an offensive coordinator somewhere, but.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting proposition to, I'd say, high-profile offensive coaching candidates in Brian Daboll and Matt Nagy that have both been head coaches in recent memory. I mean,
he's not going to want to be just a nameplate OC, though, right? He's going to want to call plays, and I'm assuming if you're hiring Nagy, he's going to call plays.
You must not have read Dan Pompei's article that we're supposed to talk about today.
Not yet.
Great job by you, as always.
We have 2 hours before we get there. I got plenty of time. So the idea of Matt Nagy, though, I mean, he makes sense as a front-running candidate, does he not? He checks all the boxes that I think the organization needs to have for him to work. And we can get into the Matt Nagy conversation a little later because, as Lucas mentioned, Dan Pompei of The Athletic wrote a piece about him as a head coaching candidate and his relationship with Mike Borgonzi, the Titans general manager. Nate Washington here with us now, published author Nate Washington, also Titans legend. Always good to have you on the show, buddy. Thank you for your time. As always, you were texting me some thoughts about this Falcons-Rams game last night in relation to some of your analysis that you've been giving about the Titans all year long. Would you like to share that with the audience?
And notion of a playoff bid. But at the same time, when you're talking about going out and competing to the best of your ability, they just looked prepared last night. And one of the main things that I talked to you about via text was the notice that very first, second series of the game, they went straight into a no-huddle offense. They understood the sense of urgency. They understood that this change will probably put a very solid defense on their heels, and it worked out for them in that regard. And I just feel like the rest of the game indicated the same thing. They were definitely prepared in the notion to go out and play their best ball, and that's kind of the same thing that I was asking about, the Cam Ward situation early on in this season for him. I felt like a hurry-up offense will help change a lot of the coverage and a lot of pressure that he would see throughout those drives and vanilla it for him, making it a lot easier for him to see where to go with the ball. So I just think the Falcons did a good job last night and obviously did some things that I have been asking this Titans organization to do for Cam throughout the year.
Yeah, and it felt like that was, at least a big part of the coaching change that Tennessee made in the middle of the season, Nate. And they ended up being right. I mean, as much as people talk about the rashness or erraticism of ownership's decisions here in the last couple of years, and I think a lot of that criticism is fair, she does end up making the correct decision in what's in the best interest of the young quarterback, because there's no arguing, right? We've talked about this with you every week. There is no question that Cam Ward has made infinitely more progress in the second, or I guess in the final 2/3 of the season than he did at any point in the first 6 weeks under Brian Callahan.
Correct. Definitely. Things have definitely slowed down tremendously for him. And I think it definitely goes towards, giving him more foundational play calls instead of trying out and going and being unique very, very soon for him in his career. I think a lot of the things that they may have asked him to do early on in the season obviously just wasn't prepared for. You're asking a rookie guy to come in and not only understand the play calls and the uniqueness that you have within those play calls, but also trying to understand the speed and the professionalism of this level of play. So I think it was a lot on this table at the beginning. I don't know, obviously, the game plan specifically that they were going into in the beginning of the season, but you can definitely tell the difference. He's a lot more comfortable in going out and making plays under what's being called now in comparison to what was being going on in the beginning of the season.
At NWash85 is where you follow him. The Amazon bookstore is where you can get Football Was My Father. I guess it's not new. It's still relatively new, the book. Out for about a month and a half now, 2 months at this point in time. You can go check it out in the Amazon bookstore, as I mentioned.
So, obviously, not just Cam, but this entire rookie class on offense, Nate, this entire offensive roster has had to go through changes, not just a head coach, but an offensive play caller from Brian Callahan to Bill Hardigree, all the adjustments that come with that. How much higher has the difficulty level been for Cam Ward this season, given all of those in-season adjustments? First, switching from Brian Callahan's play-calling cadence to Bill Hardigree, and then suddenly with Mike McCoy at the helm and some of the different things they did down on this backstretch, it's finally looked like it's led to some on-field improvement for Cam, who's kind of stacked performances here in the last 4 to 5 games. But can you kind of put into context just for an offensive player in general, let alone a rookie, the challenges that come with changes at both of those spots, head coach and play caller?
Well, I think it's a huge thing as a player. Obviously, as a fan, you look at these guys coming in, they're being drafted high. You look at what they were able to accomplish in college, and you just think everything translates. But as you stated, a lot of the personnel changes in not only the coaching staff, but within this offense is definitely going to affect and hinder his game, and the progression upon which he's able to do so. So you look at this situation, and I say this with all due respect, but, I seen someone tweet on Twitter the other day, this is what he's able to accomplish with fourth-round draft pick receivers. And you look at those situations, and it's like, man, this guy has truly come out and done some good things this year, because you look at the situation of the coaching change in itself, that definitely affects everything that he goes out and does, from his reads to his protection to his understanding of, who's going to be accountable in the pass game. All of those things are readjusted once you get a new coach in, so you have to then adjust to those things. And I think of all things, it just shows his level of professionalism and approach towards his craft. It means something to him. And, whether he was required to go through these things in college as far as, coaching staff changes and front office situations, now he's in this situation, and I think he's handling it pretty well because, out of all things, not to, bring him into the situation in a negative aspect, but you look at Joe Burrow, and I'm pretty sure a lot of the behind the scene things that he was going through throughout this season, throughout those couple of weeks, made him address the media weeks ago in the way that he did. So you look at this situation and how Cam's handled it, and it hasn't affected his game one bit. He's continued to progress. He's continued to go out each week and show something different that's going to help this team out in the future. And obviously, me as an alumni and as a fan am excited about, next year and the things to come with Cam.
Well, and it's been interesting to watch players around him, especially his fellow rookies, adjust to Cam's play style, and hearing from guys like Chimere DK. Oh, did we lose Nate?
Uh-oh.
And
I can't hear you.
He's gone.
You can't hear us? Okay. It's because something about his audio changed in the middle of that answer. So I wonder if his AirPods might be in the vicinity and have connected to him at some point. Robert, if you could see if we could work that out with Nate. But you were saying?
Well, I think it's interesting to hear Chimere DK and Titans rookies, Titans receivers in general, talk about that adjustment of learning how to play with Cam on the scramble drill. So I was curious if Nate has any sort of example of that, right? If there is a quarterback in his career, if there's any of that with Ben Roethlisberger, who was pretty good at keeping a play alive, but certainly did it in different ways than Cam Ward. But that adjustment has been gradual over the course of the year. I feel like it's gotten to the point where Titans receivers pretty instinctually know or have a feel for how to get open when Cam Ward is doing his off-schedule stuff. I mean, hell, we saw Jeffrey Simmons do it against the 49ers. So the adjustment that comes with that, I'm curious how long that takes from the wide receiver position to kind of learn that specific cadence from a quarterback like Cam Ward, where that's just going to be a natural part of his game. He's always going to be that kind of player, right? He's never going to be a statue in the pocket. He's always going to ride that line of the discipline in the pocket combined with the strength of extending a play and putting his offense in advantageous situations to catch a defense off balance.
You know, I'd also, assuming that we get Nate back during the segment, and it's people are giving Robert a hard time in the chat. It's not Robert's fault. We're figuring that out, and we're working with Nate to make sure that we can get him reconnected. I think his AirPods probably just connected or something like that. Anyway, I wonder if Nate can have some, how should I say this, some objectivity about the conversation that you and I were having towards the end of the show yesterday, or the three of us were having towards the end of the show yesterday, which is the value of a wide receiver versus a top-tier pass rusher for a team like this right now. Because, Nate obviously played wide receiver. I would assume he places a higher value on the position. So he may have some thoughts as to why it would be more beneficial for a team like this one with a quarterback situation like this one to have a wide receiver first. Obviously, they need both things, but just in terms of prioritization, if you're going to do it that way.
It is interesting to think about what Cam Ward could do if he has that wide receiver that can bail you out of situation after situation next year. Like, how quickly could that help Cam Ward take a big year 2 leap? When you look at what Puka does for Matt Stafford at times, what DJ Moore does for Caleb Williams, on Sunday, what Chris Olave did for Tyler Shuck. Like, Cam Ward, with respect to Chimere Dike and Elikayo Manor and guys that have probably played above the level that was expected of them as fourth-round rookies, he doesn't have anything close to that at the moment.
No,
he's had flashes of Calvin Ridley this season, like brief spurts of it, but nothing consistent.
Well, and it's crazy that, frankly, the rookies have been more consistent. I don't know, Nate. Am I being unfair? Am I being prisoner of the moment to say that the rookies have been a bit more consistent for Cam Ward than Calvin Ridley was at any point when he was available to him? That may feel a bit harsh, but I don't know that I don't feel that way pretty strongly.
Hey, man, it is what it is. And that's exactly what you've seen. You've seen a group of young guys that have made football a priority. And I'm not saying that anyone hasn't outside of those young guys, but you can just see that football is top priority for them right now. And everything that they want to do is get better. You know, even as the lull has happened for Elic, this past game, he showed up and made some big plays. And I just think that's what it's all about. You're as a player, you're going to have some moments where, things don't work out for you, but bouncing back the next week, bouncing back the next play is imperative, because it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep coming your way. So you have to be able to be in the right mind state to make these plays. And that's what I've seen from these young guys. And as we know about, the youth in itself, they kind of do better with, letting things go that didn't work out for them a little bit better than the older guys will. Because, in a lot of sense, as an older guy, you're looking at it like, hey, I don't have too many of these opportunities left, and that definitely changes the sense of urgency. But for a young guy, he's able to go put a drop behind him or put a bad game behind him and go out there the next week and give everything he has and continue to improve. And that's exactly what I've seen from both Alec and Shamir. I think they've been doing a great job of whatever has happened in the previous week, going out that next week and doing whatever they have to do to get better.
Nate Washington with us. We were talking about it. I was asking just as you cut out, Nate. I'm not sure if you caught any of it. The adjustment
No,
you're good. The adjustment that comes with playing with a scrambling quarterback as a wide receiver. Do you have any sort of comparison from your career on maybe how long it takes to get that cadence down of registering in your head when he's leaving the pocket, extending the play, and just the best method of finding a connection off schedule with him in those moments, which obviously Titans receivers have had to do with Cam this year?
Yeah, well, I played with one Ben Roethlisberger, so rest assured that that's pretty much all we did. It was run your route and get ready to get open after your route. So coming to Tennessee, a lot of those things were different for me outside of VY. A lot of it was timing, a lot of it was play scheme, a lot of it was spacing and understanding of those type of situations on down and distance. So it definitely changed my game in a lot of perspectives. Playing with Ben, it gave us an opportunity opportunity to go out and just make plays, just like you would be in the backyard. And sometimes those things will help you, sometimes they will hurt you. But they worked out for us, obviously, for a lot of time in Pittsburgh. But when you get to a system that I was in Tennessee, where everything is built on timing, spacing, and understanding of down and distance, then it changes your mentality towards how you approach a lot of your routes. And understanding that, it's imperative for you to be in specific spots for your quarterback in specific times, and a lot of times that with anything, it takes a lot of repetition, but it definitely took a lot more repetition preparing to be in those specific spots and spaces, depending on what defense you would face, because obviously every defense doesn't look the same. Every cover 3 doesn't look the same. Every cover 1 doesn't look the same. Depends on the player that you're playing against. And a lot of times those things dictate how you approach those routes. So, going out and playing with a guy that's more so a playmaker that is able to come out and break tackles and get out of the pocket when it's closing down on him and make plays outside of those things that are originally structured, definitely takes a different mentality. As those guys in that type of system must understand, real good routes may come, but you also may have to break those things off and create after those routes. So it's always making sure, I was told with Ben, you don't stop moving until he stopped moving. And that's one of the main things. But in this sense of playing in a systemized offense, you have to be in a specific spot at a specific time.
Titans legend Nate Washington with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Nate, we got a call at the start of the show from a listener who was watching last night's game, and Kyle Pitts is going to be a free agent. And Kyle Pitts has not had a great career in Atlanta, but certainly there are flashes, and he's athletic enough, traitsy enough that somebody will give him a reasonable size payday come this upcoming free agency. We had the question asked of us within the context of, should Titans fans want Kyle Pitts? My position was, well, if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you just keep Chigakonkwo for probably, maybe not outright half of what Kyle Pitts stands to make on the open market? But where are you on a guy like Chigakonkwo that hasn't been a huge role player for the Tennessee Titans during his career here, but he's leading them in receiving this year. Somebody has to, right? And
Yeah.
has some explosive playability. He's good if you can get him in space. He's got the ability to pull away from guys. Where are you on Chig and the idea of potentially bringing him back versus letting him walk?
Well, as you stated, he made some plays. I think he's leading the team in receiving yards right now. I think he's been good enough, to keep on your roster. But there is a but, or also, or and, whatever you would like to put there. But in the same sense, it's like if you have better options out there, you have to explore those options. And as much as I do feel Kyle has underperformed upon expectation, upon his potential initially coming in the league in Atlanta, I do feel in ways that he could be a better option. Now, the Titans have, I think if I'm not mistaken, the largest salary and cap coming this offseason, where they have a lot of money to spend. And in that notion, you also have to understand, you don't want to tie yourself into too long of a deal. You look at Calvin's situation and how they tied themselves into that big contract for this 3-4 years that he'll be in that contract. And I don't think they want to put themselves in another contract like that with a potential player. But when you look at Kyle in comparison to Chig, I do understand that Kyle has a bigger upside. I do feel like he's now coming into his confidence and understanding the speed of the game in the league. Unfortunately, that happens to a lot of guys, even the first round, second round draft picks. It happens to a lot of the guys. And I think now he's finding his way up to that potential that everyone was expecting in the beginning. So with that being said, there's a huge upside with Kyle. You get him here, you give him an opportunity with a manageable contract, and you may get more, But in the same sense, I don't think you lose if you don't find another free agent in the offseason and you have Chig on your roster, because he's definitely shown some upside and was able to do some things here this season that was improved from his previous.
At NWash85 on Twitter is where you follow him. On the way out, Nate, Steelers-Ravens this weekend. Who you got?
Hey, you want to talk some smack to Robert back there? He's a diehard Ravens fan. He's miserable, even though he got you back on the air for us. So we have to be kind of nice to him.
Oh man, yeah. I'm glad he got me back on. But I'll be in Pittsburgh Sunday night, fired up, man. So I'm looking forward to it. Meeting a couple of my old teammates out there. We got a couple of things going on, but I'll be at the game. I told my family this takes me back to '08 when we played them in the championship, AFC Championship, North Championship, in Pittsburgh. Last game of the season, big hit between Ryan Clark and Willie McGahee. It's always that type of notion, that type of energy, man. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm fired up. I know my Steelers are going to pull this out, but I'm nervous, man. So we'll see how things go. And I'm looking forward to the game Sunday night. It'll be exciting.
Winner take all in the AFC North. Nate Washington with us. NateWashington85.com. Football Was My Father. You can find it there or on Amazon. Appreciate it, Nate.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you next week, man.
Thanks, buddy. Happy New Year. We appreciate your time as
New Year.
always. That's the man, Nate Washington.
Robert, do we have things to give away for what made you say, oh no, in sports this week?
Boy, do we. The Predators taking on the Mammoth in January.
Ice Age game?
I believe it's,
They just beat the Mammoth last night, by the way. Steven Stamkos, game-tying and game-winning goal in the third period.
It was 598 and 599, I believe, for him career.
Yep, he's heating up a little this year. They're up to 5th in the Central. The Preds have won 4 of 5. 4-3 win over the Mammoth last night. Moving on up. So the game is in January, you say?
Yeah, like the 26th or something like that.
All right. Tickets for Preds and Mammoth on the line. All you got to do is tell us what made you say, oh no, in sports this week. 615-737-1045, and we'll do it next.
for the opportunity to go see the Nashville Predators against the Mammoth, the Utah Mammoth. The Ice Age game, as Luke earlier.
Nice.
615-737-1045 is the number. Also, a $100 gift card to a Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa. Great way to start the new year. Get a little TLC, a little self-care. Go see some hockey. 615-737-1045. What in sports made you say, oh no? Mine is Sauce Gardner. So not just because Sauce Gardner went from a team that started 1-7 to a team that is finished or is currently 1-7 in the trade from the New York Jets to the Indianapolis Colts that saw the Colts give up multiple first-round picks to acquire him and fortify their secondary. But it's because Sauce Gardner took to Twitter last night, and he's already deleted it. So, listen, I get that we all get emotional, and maybe you post some stuff on social media from time to time that you'll regret after the fact. It was very quickly posted and very soon thereafter deleted. And it's not anything crazy, but it's basically a self-defense. He feels like he's being criticized. I think, how old is Sauce Gardner? Is he 25? Is he 26?
Something like that.
Yeah, so he's young enough to where I'm sure the amount of criticism that he's getting or the amount of bad luck that he's being associated with probably doesn't sit well with him. Quote, I only have 32 targets this year. There are 0 cornerbacks that only had 32 targets through 600-plus snaps. I only had 22 targets through 7 games. I do not get targeted as much as 99.8% of other cornerbacks in the league. Only like 50% of those passes got completed. He goes on to talk about the busted coverage that was on one of the only 2 touchdowns that he has been around this season in allowing. Not very happy about his situation. Only 208 yards allowed all year. Some wide receivers go for 100-plus in one game. Am I missing something? He tweets. It's okay. He's probably in a bad spot. He's probably not having a great time. I understand that he was excited after he left the Jets and went to what looked like the best team in football and has since then been 1-7 with a team that started as the best team in football. So just the entire Sauce Gardner experience. Oh, no.
Man, when's the last time that a team going all in like that at the trade deadline just bottomed out like this? Just doesn't happen that often. Teams going all in at the deadline in general, like the NFL trade deadline typically doesn't have even 1 or 2 huge blockbuster trades, and it felt like there was a litany as the Jets were selling off parts this year and the Colts. My goodness.
Chris Ballard shouldn't have his job. Only been employed for 1 playoff win by the organization in, how long has he been there? 9 years? 10 years?
My ono is this situation with Baylor basketball, who is bringing in 21-year-old James Nagy, who back in 2023 was the number 31 overall pick in the NBA draft. He is returning to college basketball. He has eligibility, and the NCAA is going to let him play. As he joins Baylor mid-season and becomes an immediate addition, standing at 7 foot 250 with a 7'7" wingspan. And this is an unprecedented move in college basketball to bring somebody in to exhaust their eligibility in the college game that had already been drafted and has played in the professional ranks.
What?
Yes, this is kind of sweeping the nation right now in college basketball. So Scott Drew and Baylor have brought in James Nagy. Obviously, this has never been a thing in college hoops. Once you went pro, you were done. You were no longer eligible. At this point, it's happening, and my only explanation on it is fear of litigation, antitrust, right? All of these things that have happened in the last few years where the NCAA has said, no, you can't, and teams, conferences have said, oh, yes, we can, and we'll sue to prove that we can. And the NCAA is standing idly by as James Nagy literally comes out of the professional ranks where he was in Europe. He has never played in an NBA game. A disappointing pick, right? Number 31 overall pick, first rounder in the NBA draft. Played a couple years in the Summer League and then went to the Euro League. He was in Barcelona for a while, Nigerian international. And now he's going to play college basketball. And Tom Izzo has been extremely outspoken about it. Several basketball coaches have been outspoken about it. Scott Drew has also talked about it and said, look, it's not my job to regulate college basketball. My job is to put Baylor in the best position to succeed. And honestly, I'm with Scott Drew. And I have respect for guys like Tom Izzo that kind of put on that pseudo-commissioner cap and do as much as they can to look out for their program and also the state of the sport. Nick Saban was that in college football, kind of still is. I feel like Tom Izzo is that, right? Would we call him the Nick Saban in terms of being that spokesperson on what is right and wrong generally in college basketball?
He's definitely the go-to voice right now. I would say that's an accurate assessment. But I heard him interviewed recently. Who's the Memphis talk show host that does stuff for CBS? Gary Parrish. I heard him interviewed on Gary Parrish's podcast the other day, Eye on College Basketball, and he was saying, I just, like, when people ask me about it, I give my opinion, but I'm not out here trying to change the world of college basketball at this point. I'm just trying to coach the team the way that I know how to coach the team. So I think it's a little different than Saban. Saban felt a little more at the forefront of, no, we're not going to do this. And then once he realized that things were headed in a direction that he didn't like, I think he just kind of threw his hands up in the air.
Well, he has been outspoken on this, and he had a long spiel on it. We're not going to play it. It's 4 or 5 minutes long. But he said, quote, "I'm a little surprised. I've got a call in to Scott Drew," who he said is one of his good friends. He said, "I'm anxious to see what he tells me. If we're dipping into guys who were drafted to the NBA, shame on the NCAA and shame on the coaches, too." So he kind of called out Baylor, obviously called out the NCAA. James Nagy has never played college basketball. He was drafted from Nigeria to the NBA. And like I said, he flamed out Summer League, Euro League, and now he has 4 years. He has been granted 4 years of eligibility at the college basketball level. So he's
That's
21.
crazy.
It's not like it's a 28-year-old that played a decade professionally and is like Bobby Boucher'ing it in the NBA. But it is something that feels like could open Pandora's box.
Mark Few also asked about this after they beat Pepperdine by 40 the other night. Quote, "Our lack of leadership has really shown. Now it's probably time to get some help from Congress, but they're more screwed up than the NCAA." That's a quote from Mark Few.
Yeah, that's the problem here, right? There's no solution in sight. There's no end in sight, and more programs are going to continue to lean in and take advantage of it. And who can blame Scott Drew? His job is to win games at Baylor. That's his livelihood. And if you can go get a 7-footer who has played professionally in the NCAA saying, go ahead, then yeah, go ahead. Throw him into your lineup as we head into the new year and into conference play and all of these things. So,
Robert?
Just a mess.
My oh no goes, and I'll do this quickly so we can get to the caller. My oh no goes to bowl games. Bowl games, there is more than one way to be creative. Just simply having, it's the Scooter's Coffee Bowl. Ooh, well, okay, we're going to douse the coach in cold brew. Okay, there's enough of the coach bath. The Mayo Bowl does it better than anybody else. Find a different way to be creative. We saw grass baths. We saw cold brew coffee baths.
Mini Pop-Tart baths.
Like there are other ways to be creative about bowl games.
Cheez-It baths.
I'm surprised we didn't. And if it's not a dumb bath, it's a dumb mascot where they're like, oh, there's no identifiable trait about our product that we could do a mascot out of it. Let's just make it a dumb-looking dog or a dumb-looking bear. Hire some creative people. I'm done coming up with ideas and shouting them to the ether. If you want somebody creative to do something, you can hire me, and I'll help you make your bowl game better. But we got to be better.
The Boca Raton Bowl, sponsored by Bush's Beans, gave out a trophy with baked beans in it.
But they didn't dump baked beans.
No, they didn't. They didn't dump baked beans. But the I can't remember who won the.
It was like
Boca
just
Raton
like a
Bowl.
bowl filled with baked beans.
It was Louisville beat Toledo, and they were like eating beans out of the bowl in the trophy. And for whatever reason, Keegan-Michael Key presented the trophy. He was like on the sideline doing interviews.
Does he do Bush's commercials?
Maybe he does. I thought it was Peyton doing Bush's, but yeah, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl does a French fry bath. Robert's right. There are ways to make it fun.
There's too many baths. Too many. Did you guys see the Las Vegas Bowl? Who their mascot was?
Mm-mm.
It was Elvis and Showgirls.
Oh, an impersonator?
Yes.
That's
hopefully
great.
no. It was actually the real Elvis.
Well, they just dug him up.
Yeah. Well, no, he's been living, eating peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Oh, famously. Him and Tupac. Eric is in Nashville. Even if his submission is bad, he's the only one that called for the tickets. So what do you got, Eric?
I told Robert I didn't care about winning the tickets, but my own no buck unfortunately involves you. And I know you didn't mean to do this, but last Wednesday's show you were talking about the NFL Christmas Day games, and you were talking about Detroit and Minnesota. You said the winner of the game was still alive for the playoffs, the loser was out. Minnesota was already eliminated from the playoffs. Detroit was the only team that still had something to play for. So, and I know you didn't mean to do it. I couldn't call in the show because it was too late at the end of the show last Wednesday. So my own no fault you. I'm sorry, bro.
No, it's okay. It's deserved. I need to be better. I appreciate it, Eric. Thank you for the call.
So me and Lucas aren't here. You're just here with Jackson, and you're just spouting a bunch of nonsense. Just shouting lies.
I thought Minnesota was still alive. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you going to accuse people of lying publicly?
It's a tough scene.
Yeah, well, you can
Do
only.
you want me to call Ron Slay? I have access to the hotline.
No. You are
disparaging one of the least disparageable figures anywhere on this network. You want to play this game with me?
I did not disparage Ron Slay. I would never say anything disparaging about Ron Slay. He is God to me. Are you calling him? There are 3 minutes left in this segment.
There are negative 3 minutes left in this segment.
Can you hear that dial tone?
No.
Okay. Perhaps I'll call Slay.
I haven't disparaged anyone. Congratulations to our non-winner. I guess I'll take some money in the break.
Vols have opt-outs in the Music City Bowl. Let's talk about them. 11:03, good morning from the Circus Sports at the Mid-Kentucky Down studio. I'm Lucas Panzica. The LA Rams rallied back from down 21, but ultimately fell short at the already eliminated Falcons. 27-24, the final on Monday Night Football at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Rams are now 11-5 and can finish as high as the 5 seed in the NFC. The Nashville Predators outscored the Utah Mammoth on the road 4-3. Steven Stamkos, 2 goals and an assist, scoring the game-tying and game-winning goals in the third period. The Preds have won 4 of 5. They are up to 5th in the Central Division. And the Tennessee Vols finished the 2025 season in the Music City Bowl this afternoon against Illinois. First ever meeting between the two programs. Chris Brazzell, Joshua Josephs, Arion Carter, and Colton Hood make up the Vols opt-outs. Both starting QBs are playing. Kickoff at 4:30. Vol Network coverage right here on The Zone begins at 2. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So Tennessee and Illinois will square off in the Music City Bowl, as Lucas just mentioned in his sports update. We will have Vol Network coverage on the air for you starting at 2 p.m. today, and that will be a great time had by all. I wonder if Mike Keith is emotional at all about returning to the broadcast booth at Nissan Stadium for the first time since he's become the voice of the Vols. The three of us are going to the game this afternoon. It'd be good to see Mike and Ramon. We'll try not to bother them as they set about their Vol Network duties, but it should be an interesting game for a couple of different reasons, and it would be a great opportunity for Tennessee or Illinois to get their 9th win, respectively. 2 8-4 teams squaring off here at Nissan Stadium. We've got opt-outs, some for NFL draft workouts, some guys who are dealing with injuries, and some dudes who are just going to be in the transfer portal. So of the notable names that we have seen opt out of the Music City Bowl, there's a great deal of them on defense for Tennessee. Chris Brazzell being the highlighted player on offense who will be in the NFL draft or who is declared for the NFL draft. Between Joshua Josephs, Arion Carter, Chris Brazzell, Colton Hood, Jermod McCoy, Peyton Lewis, Jake Merklinger, is it Marcus Gorey? Marcus Gore?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
With respect.
All these portal guys who have not played significant snaps for Tennessee. Was there one guy you would have liked to see participate in the Music City Bowl versus the opt-out, or do you understand why all of these guys have opted out?
I am most curious about Arion Carter and what his projection will be for the NFL draft. He felt like a candidate to come back for Tennessee next year. He's been Tennessee's lead tackler each of the last 2 years, missed a lot of time this season with that double turf toe. Was slightly surprised to see him declare and opt out. Tennessee will miss him in the middle of the defense. Chris Brazzell, you understand, 1,000-yard receiver, breakout year after transferring from Tulane, second year with the program, and it gives Tennessee wide receivers, young wide receivers, a chance to emerge a little bit. I don't think that's a bad thing. You have Braylon Staley and Mike Matthews to lean on that will be back next year, assuming there's no surprise portal exit. But Josh Heupel talked a lot this week about how important the lead up to the 2021 Music City Bowl was for Jalen Hyatt, and how that served as kind of a springboard for Hyatt into 2022, where he obviously had a huge year, won the Biletnikoff, played himself into a draft pick. So can one of Travis Smith or Radarius Jackson utilize this period to their advantage? And it'll be interesting to see which of those two players gets more run today, because I think that could kind of tell you, could signify which of those two earned that a little bit more during these 15 to 20 extra practices that you get in bowl prep. But Joshua Josephs, that's a miss. He was your second sack leader, tied for second in sacks with 4 this year. And Colton Hood, I would say, is probably the biggest omission from this defense, with already Jermod McCoy not playing at all this year. Ricky Gibson went down in week 1, season ended. And Colton Hood was a very pleasant surprise. If not for Colton Hood, Tennessee would have been in some dire straits at corner. And now he's out of the picture. So you're very, very young and thin at the corner spot today. And Illinois' got an accomplished veteran quarterback in Luke Altmaier that is playing out his final game. So I think this game's going to be a shootout. We can talk about it a little bit more later. Illinois is also without their number one sack getter in Gabe Akis. 11 sacks. Leads the Big Ten. He's declared for the NFL draft. So that's a big miss for the Illinois defense. But nothing terribly surprising, I would say, in Tennessee's opt-outs, other than perhaps Arion Carter.
Tennessee at Nissan Stadium, where it will obviously be a home game, is favored by 3. The over-under, depending on which sports book you're looking at, I've got my DraftKings sports book up. Over-under 61.5. Over-under 61.5. Where would we set the number of hot dogs that Robert Walsh figures to eat in the Titans radio suite, where we have been fortunate enough to receive free tickets?
Well, we have some important clerical notes to mention. I was informed by Lucas that there would not just be hot dogs there.
I don't know. I have no idea.
We need to come up with the conversion rate for wings to hot dogs, because if there are wings, I would probably enjoy wings as well. So would 2 wings equate 1 hot dog?
That adds up.
No, 3 wings. There's
3?
not a, like, there's
no carbs. Well, I guess
They're fried or breading.
Okay,
Or,
fair enough. There's not like bread that goes with the wings the way there is with the hot dog. I feel like the bread is what takes up so much space.
I think that I could eat 3 right now if I had
hot
to.
dogs.
Yes, correct. Or wings. I could eat 9 wings right now.
You did eat 3 yesterday.
I ate 2.
2, yeah.
And a half.
I ate 3.
You ate 2.5
2.5.
also.
Oh, you went to
ate the other
that
half.
wildly overrated hot dog place that
Yes.
Robert called mid again.
It was mid. It was like, it's just a 6. It's just okay. It's just good. Yeah. All the hot dogs are the same.
All right, well, don't call them out.
I didn't.
All right. Go
just
to
saying.
@LucasPanzik on Instagram if you must know.
It was a good dog. It was an okay dog, but it didn't like blow me away.
What did you have on that? Because it looked like there was more topping than hot dog.
Well, if you ever get a slaw dog, slaw is supposed to be stacked up so big that you could make a slaw sandwich out of the hot dog bun that's left from your hot dog.
Marciano on the F&M Bank chat says, are they boneless wings or bone-in? We don't do boneless here.
Yeah.
All right, let's, please.
Oh, those are just chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
And if it was, I would say, probably 3. 3 of those would also, because of all the breading.
So what's more likely, that Robert and I eat a combined, did you put up the poll?
I did put up the polls.
8.5 over-under for hot dogs that Robert and I consume at the Music City Bowl. What's more likely?
Oh, between the two of you? Or
Between the
each?
two of us. Between the two of us.
I had it at
over.
10.5 first, and he was like, that's too many hot dogs. There's no way we eat that many
I'm
hot
not gonna eat
dogs.
Well, it just
5
depends
hot
on how
dogs.
drunk you two are.
Well, hold on.
Which, by the way, we are going to be useless tomorrow on the last day of the year as a show because I have Fox all night.
Speak for yourself.
9 p.m. to 1 a.m., and Lucas is just going to be housed at the, at the Vols game.
Famously, I have the recovery of an 18-year-old, so I should be back and spry tomorrow morning.
Yeah, we'll be fine. We're not old men like you. The over-under 61.5 for the Music City Bowl, brought to you by Liberty Bibberty. What's more likely, that the over hits on the field or in the Titans radio suite with the hot dogs?
I think over. I think over on the game.
On both.
I think over on both. I think over on the game, certainly, though, because of what we just talked about with the corner situation. And who's calling the defense, did you say?
William Inge, the linebackers coach, is the interim defensive coordinator, former college teammate of Brett Bielema's at Iowa. So they've been talking about that a lot in media availability.
So I'm going to assume that the idea of the defense being appreciably better since Tim Banks has been relieved of his duties is not going to be a thing, especially because you're just getting younger at an already young and inexperienced position where they've basically just had to feel it out all year long. And Illinois, I mean, they're not an overwhelmingly high-scoring team, but I think that they're good enough to make it a bit of a track meet, which is, I think, the way that Tennessee wants to play anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this game is going to be a shootout. I don't know if it will be to the level that the 2021 Music City Bowl was against Purdue, where Aiden O'Connell threw for 1 million yards and Hendon Hooker had 5 touchdown passes, and it's in the 40s in overtime. But you have Joey Aguilar, who I saw this today and did not know this, is the FBS active career leader in career yards per game, passing and total.
Well, that probably makes sense, though. How many other players have been in college football as long as that guy?
Yeah.
Pavia?
A lot of that is this year, though, I would say.
Yeah, sure.
275.8 yards passing per game in his career, 290.8 total yards per game. Led the SEC in passing this season. Explosive, obviously. Tennessee's offense kind of got back to what Tennessee fans like to see under Josh Heupel in 2025. Luke Altmaier, on the other hand, top 20 in the country in completion percentage, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, efficient, and the Vols are without their lead tackler in the middle of the defense. They're without one of their best pass rushers, and they're without their best corner. Oh, and their defensive coordinator, like you said. So, yeah, I think this game is prime for, and then not to mention Illinois, without the Big Ten's leader in sacks this season. I think this game is prime for a lot of points, fireworks, what should be a good crowd at Nissan Stadium.
That's kind of the same vibe it was the last time. Was that the last time Tennessee played the Music City Bowl against Purdue?
21.
Yeah. So it was basically the same. It was a fun game.
Every 4 to 5 years, Tennessee feels like has to play 2010 against North Carolina, 2016 against Nebraska, 2021 against Purdue, and now 25 against Illinois.
You have headlines?
I do.
They're next.
It's time for NFL headlines. With Lucas Pans.
Playoff.
You always get we need to work on our cadence. We need to work on we need to run some routes and throw some balls together and figure out where we
No, I think we got it down.
get in at.
Playoff race is heating up. MVP race is heating up. And I guess for a lot of people, the MVP race is just over. The amount of commentary that I saw after Matt Stafford threw 3 picks last night, including a pick 6. And, go look at FanDuel Sportsbook. Drake May now is minus 475 to be the most valuable player in the NFL. Matt Stafford plus 320. He is into plus money after last night, where he started really slow but had a surge and led the Rams back, tied up the game after being down 21 multiple times, ended up 22 of 38, 269, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions against Atlanta. Now, that is put up in comparison to Drake May, who was dominant, who was phenomenal against the New York Jets. Only needed him for less than 3 quarters, went 19 of 21 for 256 and 5 touchdowns, 4 of those in the first half, no turnovers against the lowly Jets. But at this point, May seems to be like a heavy favorite heading into the last week of the regular season. Real quick, just a snapshot of these two players. Drake May has the edge in completion percentage. He has 71.7%. Matt Stafford, 65.2%. Stafford with the edge in yards, 4,448. May, 4,203. Stafford with the edge in touchdowns, 42. May, 30. They each have 8 interceptions. QBR, Drake May, the slight edge, 76.5. Stafford, 70.1. Yet there is a disparity, according to the sports books, on who is expected to win most valuable player.
So how do you two view the MVP? Because it's always something where 50 people vote on this. Broadcasters, member of the AP panel, you have people who cast ballots at the end of the regular season, obviously, and so the playoffs don't count. These are regular season awards, whether it's Offensive Rookie of the Year, MVP, whatever. The MVP award almost exclusively goes to quarterbacks anymore. So we'll just call it a quarterback award. Is it the best player on the best team? Or is it like the Heisman, where we talked about, I feel like all 3 of us were in agreement to an extent, that Diego Pavia was more important to Vanderbilt's success this year than was Fernando Mendoza, which is why Pavia would have been the better Heisman Trophy winner. That's obviously not how it went, and it wasn't even close according to the voting in the Heisman Trophy, so maybe we're off on that. I view the MVP in the NFL the same way. I don't know which team is in a worse situation without their respective quarterbacks, because the one has McVay, the other has McDaniels getting their offense right. Dobbs is the backup quarterback for the Patriots, and Garoppolo is the Rams' backup.
Correct.
Garoppolo is the Rams' backup. Stetson Bennett still kicking.
He's still wandering around back there too. So who would be more likely to see their team succeed if they went down? The Patriots with Dobbs or the Rams with Garoppolo? It's probably the Rams with Garoppolo.
I would say the Rams with respect to Dobbs, who's an excellent backup.
We've just seen Jimmy do it before, and Sean McVay
It's more about Sean McVay
that you trust. But Josh McDaniels has done an excellent job with Drake May.
I trust Sean McVay.
I feel like part of this conversation, it needs to be split up like Pro Bowl voting, like fan vote, coach vote, player vote. Where, like, I understand the conversation about most valuable player, who is the most valuable to their team. But I think that also brings down the value of who is having the better season. Matthew Stafford is far and away having the better season than Drake May.
It's arguably the best season of his career.
And when you say who is more valuable to their team, it kind of lessens the fact of, but look how good Matthew Stafford has been. Did he throw a third of his interceptions of the season last night?
Yeah, he's got 8. He threw 3 of them last night.
One game.
And how many did you feel like were his fault? Because Jesse Bates, he threw high on the first one. Jesse Bates tipped it up. It's a tip drill pick. The second one was bad, but I just thought it was a really good play. What's the name of the rookie safety that Atlanta has?
Xavier Watts.
Xavier Watts.
Yeah. He had 2 picks, almost 2 pick sixes if he didn't step out of bounds.
He was awesome last night. So I don't know. I mean, I don't kill him just because he had a 3-interception game and a 3-point loss. You know what I'm saying?
And I feel like at the end of the year, we get so tied up with recency bias where it's like we forget what happened the first 15 weeks of the season. Like, if we're going off recency bias and only the end of the season matters, Brock Purdy is the MVP.
Yeah. Awesome.
The last 2 weeks, he has been playing out of his mind. But that's not the case. It's for the whole season, which is why I think this is such an ambiguous award. It means so many different things to so many people. You're never going to find a concise answer or a correct answer to everyone.
Well, both are heavy favorites this week. The Rams host the Cardinals. Patriots host the eliminated Dolphins. I'm not going to be overly upset if either May or Stafford win it. I think it should be Stafford. I think at 37, with all of the injury questions around him coming into the year and the way he's had one of the most dominant seasons individually in his career, plus strength of schedule, advantage Rams over Patriots in terms of some of the defenses they've faced. But it sounds like it'll be neck and neck. But you're right, Robert. If that game happens in week 2, Stafford threw 3 picks in week 2 and has thrown, what would it be, 5 since then, he'd be the favorite to win MVP.
But also, like, think about, and I don't want to dwell too much longer on this because and we could if we wanted to, but I want to keep it moving because there are other headlines, and there was some Patriots news that just broke that's worth talking about at some point. I don't know if that's in your headlines or not. But, like, think about that second quarter after he throws the pick, the first pick, Stafford. They have, it's a God-tier catch by Puka Nacua for 36 yards that would have put them in the red zone that gets wiped off the board because DJ Humphries isn't lined up. It's an illegal formation because he's not lined up on the line of scrimmage. So, like, is that Matt Stafford's fault? Of course not. It's a great throw, a great catch by the receiver, but it doesn't count because the left tackle isn't in position.
Yeah. Real quick, last MVP to win that was not a quarterback.
I want to say I know it, and I don't.
Is it a running back?
Yes.
Todd Gurley?
Is it Adrian Peterson?
Adrian Peterson, 2012.
Wow.
Did Todd Gurley win MVP?
No, but he was really good.
One monster year. 2012, the last time, and it may never happen again.
Has it been a quarterback every year since then?
Every year since.
I mean, that makes sense, though. Like, Derek didn't even get an MVP vote.
He got like one, didn't he? Thought he got one, literally, a singular vote.
Well,
maybe not.
That's almost more. That's almost worse.
Patriots wide receiver, while we're talking about the Patriots, Stephon Diggs is facing strangulation and assault charges, according to court records. This broke here in the last hour. The charges stem from an alleged incident on December 2nd, one day after the Patriots beat the Giants 33-15. I'm reading from ABC News. Details of the alleged incident have not been released. The Patriots said in a statement, Stephon has informed the organization that he categorically denies the allegations. We support Stephon. We will continue to gather info and will cooperate fully with the appropriate authorities in the NFL as necessary. Developing situation.
This is the most Boston Irish name I've ever seen of the reporter for Boston News 25 that broke this, Frank O'Loughlin. So Frank O'Loughlin is reporting that the date that it happened, as Lucas mentioned, Tuesday, December 2nd, after the Patriots beat down on the New York Giants. They are also reporting at Boston News 25 that that Diggs has made a financial offer to resolve the dispute with the alleged victim in this case. Quote, according to Diggs' attorney, as we speak, they're working to come to an agreement on that, which is why the Patriots statement, I think, reads the way that it does. If they were in any way, shape, or form worried about his availability due to a legal situation, I don't think that they would back him that strongly.
Okay, he's coming off a 100-yard and 1 touchdown performance against the Jets. Like I said, they played the Dolphins. They're still technically in play for the 1 seed in the AFC, but would need a substantial amount of help, which takes me to the next headline. Trey Lance is going to start at quarterback for the Chargers against the Broncos, which could heavily impact the race for the 1 seed in the AFC. Justin Herbert has been playing through a fractured hand. He's going to sit. The Chargers may rest other starters, according to Jim Harbaugh. LA is 11-5. They can finish as high as the 5 seed. They'll be going on the road no matter what in the wild card round. The Broncos would clinch the 1 seed with a win. The Chargers play the Broncos with Trey Lance starting at quarterback. Patriots, Jags need the Broncos to lose to have any shot at the 1 seed, and the Denver Broncos have a very nice path to having that first-round bye if they can get past Trey Lance and the Chargers.
Justin Herbert looking around with a hand fracture, being like, you know what, the Broncos defense.
Yep. In Denver.
Trey, you got it.
I'm over counting out bad teams this year, especially this last week. Like
Sure.
the Browns, the Falcons last night.
Oh,
like,
sure.
It
Yeah.
would be easy to go.
No, you're right.
Oh, yeah. And then if you look at the Broncos' record in one-score games, I think they've won something like 8 games by less than 3 points or less. So, I mean, it would not surprise me to see this one be closer than we expect it to be.
So, Broncos 12.5-point favorites. Are you saying you're taking the points on the Chargers?
That's a ton of points.
Yeah, for
especially
sure.
for a team that has
Divisional
proven
game.
they can't pull away. Is it in Denver?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's a lot of points for me still.
Trey Lance has appeared in 3 games so far this season. He is completing 53.8% of his passes. He has 90 passing yards, so 6.9 yards per attempt. No touchdowns, no picks.
Nice.
Elsewhere, I don't know that we see a lot of teams resting starters. It's nice to have actual races for the 1 seed in both conferences, which doesn't always happen. Eagles may rest starters. They play the Commanders at home. They have already clinched the NFC East. There is some seeding that could be played for there, but no matter what, Philly will host in the wild card round. Otherwise, man, I think we're going to get a lot of full-strength matchups for teams that are still in the playoff picture. Running backs over the weekend. We were talking a lot about Matt Stafford and Drake May. Why? Did something happen? Turn your mic on. It's on.
I'm talking to Robert because this has nothing to do with you. Why don't you do your job?
You know you're talking on the air right now. That's not to me.
Oh.
Good job by you.
No, I knew I was on the air. No, this is something that I want in the headlines before the end of the segment. Robert, I just sent it to the Twitter group because it has something to do with the Titans head coaching search.
Okay. You made it seem important.
I think it is.
Running backs over the weekend. Derrick Henry, 36 carries, 216 yards, 4 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 181 total yards and a touchdown in that shootout win over the Bears. And Bijan Robinson was phenomenal last night. 22 carries, 195 yards and a touchdown. Also had 5 catches for 34 and a touchdown. 229 total. It brings him up to 2,255 scrimmage yards this season. Bijan Robinson needs 255 yards as they play the Saints in Week 18 to break CJ2K's single-season record of 2,509 scrimmage yards. Does he get there? He needs 255 against New Orleans.
I mean, yeah, if you're Atlanta, you don't have anything to play for. It's not like there's any more football after this. Why wouldn't you just run him?
Play for the record, man.
I think so.
It's in Atlanta.
I
They're
think
hot.
That would, yeah, I mean, that would be a good morale booster for a team that's obviously not had the kind of season that they wanted to have in a division that was thoroughly gettable. Why not play spoiler here at the end of the year and just give it to, I mean, Bijan Robinson is their best offensive player right now.
Yeah, he's one of the best offensive players in the NFL.
Yeah, so it's not that far off of what they would be doing anyway. Why not go for the record?
The 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame finalist list has been put out. Anything that sticks out here as we look at Drew Brees, Willie Anderson, Larry Fitzgerald, Frank Gore, Eli Manning, Luke Kuechly, Terrell Suggs, Torrey Holt, Adam Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne, Jason Witten, Darren Woodson, Marshall Yonda, any of those names I just listed that you would take any exception to being in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
I wouldn't pretend to know enough about, like, Jari Evans. I know his name because he was a good offensive lineman for the Saints for a long time. I'm not qualified to determine anybody going into the Hall of Fame or not. That's what we have PK as our Hall of Fame voter for.
Between 3 and 5 of the finalists will be inducted.
Vinatieri should have been in by now, right?
Vinatieri should absolutely be in the Hall of Fame.
I wonder what the holdup there for him is.
Breeze is a new candidate. Larry Fitzgerald, a new candidate. Are they shoo-ins?
I would think so, right? Larry's got the statistical accomplishments. He never won a Super Bowl, but he played in one.
Breeze, second all-time passer in the NFL. I feel like that's
Breeze is a champion.
worthy.
He's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game.
And you got to think they'd put a quarterback in this class because, like, the star power, obviously all of these guys were really good players, but the star power of this class is severely lacking.
Is Jason Witten a Hall of Famer?
No.
He's a Dallas Cowboy, so he's going to get mentioned. But.
I guess longevity, I think Blaine and Zach had this conversation on their show. I can't remember who it was. It's weird because I'm for longevity for Frank Gore and against longevity for Jason Witten.
Jason Witten's got a lot of NFL records, man.
Because, one, I think it's infinitely harder to play as long as Frank Gore did at running back versus how long Jason Witten played tight end.
And how he played.
And how he played.
Basically, you run that quick out route, and then you just stop in the middle of the zone, and you sit down, you post somebody up, and you fall to the ground. That's Jason Witten's game.
He did not miss a game from 2004, his second year in the NFL, through his last year, 2020.
Is Jason Witten one of the best tight ends of all time, or did he just play a really long time?
And he played for a famous franchise a long time.
He's not Tony Gonzalez. He's not
Gronk or Kittle
or who's the dude for the Chargers? His name escapes.
Antonio Gates.
Antonio Gates. He's none of those guys. He just played for an extremely long time, so his numbers look comparable.
I think I'm with you. But I will admit that I have a little bit of Cowboys bias here because I think that they get inflated just because of where they played. And maybe that matters. I mean, it's the most famous franchise in the sport, but I don't know. I don't think you should, they all get broadcasting jobs immediately. All of these Cowboys retired players, just because people assume they'll be good in the booth. I think Dallas Cowboys players get enough gifted to them on a regular basis. I don't think Witten should be in.
So if it's only one quarterback, is it Breeze or Eli? It's the first time Breeze has been a finalist.
Listen, if there's only one quarterback in, I think it should be Eli. Or excuse me, I think it should be Drew Brees. I think Eli Manning deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, though.
I agree.
But if you're going to make me pick between those two specifically, Brees.
I feel like Adam Vinatieri has to be one of the 3 to 5.
It's insane he's not already in.
To me, he's
what was
almost
his last year. His last year was what? 19?
I mean, he's the all-time points leader in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Nobody has scored more points.
It is really, really, really hard for special teams guys to get in because while you are correct, look how long it took Ray Guy as a punter to get into the Hall of Fame. I just think they're going to look at these other candidates and say, okay, we can get Vinatieri in here at some point, but we have guys to make first ballots. It's tough for me to go against this, but I think Larry Fitzgerald should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Is Terrell Suggs a Hall of Famer?
Yes. He is in the top 10 in sacks of all time.
Was he on that Chiefs team that won a Super Bowl?
Yes,
he was.
That's right.
He has 2. He has a sneaky second ring.
Yeah,
he went to the Cardinals. They released him off waivers.
That's
Chiefs
right.
picked him up.
That first Mahomes Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to say of these names that I think Vinatieri should be the first on the list of guys that get in, of the 3 to 5 that get in?
Yes.
That's crazy?
Yes, I think that's
it's
crazy. He should be a 4th or 5th guy to
I
get
think
in.
he should be a slam dunk Hall of Famer.
No, I don't disagree with you, but I think that a slam dunk Hall of Famer kicker it's okay to let the kicker wait a little longer.
Willie Anderson is an infinitely better player than Adam Vinatieri is, and he has been waiting since Nam to get in the Hall of Fame.
All right. Fair enough. Frank Gore, a Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Yes.
And unequivocally.
Yes.
I will
What?
fight anyone who says otherwise.
Well, wouldn't that kind of just be your Jason Witten argument, though?
Did you know? It is harder to play that long at running back than it is to play that long at tight end.
Sure.
And he wasn't just a body. He was serviceable at the end of his career.
He was.
And
all the way to the end.
He's in a very, very rare space about longevity, stats. While he did not win a Super Bowl, I believe he was on the 49ers one against the Ravens.
He did not win a Super Bowl.
I don't think that should matter for running backs. I feel like that's a quarterback thing.
It shouldn't matter as much. Would it put you over the top in your candidacy? For sure. But I don't think it's essential for a running back to have a Super Bowl ring to be a Hall of Famer. I think Derrick Henry is a shoe-in Hall of Famer no matter what. Rings or not. The ring would just be nice. I
think if you can categorize yourself or a player as the best player at their position for multiple years, you're able to, I will forward you. Like Luke Kuechly, shorter career, but he was probably the best linebacker.
He was awesome.
Probably the best linebacker in the NFL for every single year of that.
Is Patrick Willis in the Hall of Fame?
That's a good question.
Because those two are kind of comparable to me. I know Kuechly was concussions versus Patrick Willis. I think it was his foot.
Yeah, he was. He was in 2024.
Yeah, so if Patrick Willis is in, Luke Kuechly, that's kind of the model for that.
The pride of Brewston, Tennessee, Patrick Willis.
Is this the first year that Kuechly's been able to be inducted? Would he be a first ballot?
I think that's right.
I think so.
Would you make him a first ballot? So how many first ballot Hall of Famers do we have here before we move on to the NFL playoff picture? Drew Brees, yes. Right? All three agree.
Yeah, Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer.
Larry Fitzgerald, yes.
I might be willing to move off of yes. I think wide receiver outside of quarterback is just one of the more compact positions, and I could see an argument for not putting Larry in first.
Luke Kuechly, yes.
I would say yes.
I would vote yes.
He's the best linebacker in the sports when he played.
So this is Suggs' first year too?
Correct. I don't think Suggs was ever the best pass rusher in the NFL, despite him leading the league in sacks.
No, and his defenses were always awesome.
Yeah, he won Defensive Player of the Year. I think he is a Hall of Famer, but I don't think
I don't think first ballot.
I would put up a bigger fight for Marshall Yonda to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, you could do that because you're a Ravens fan.
I love that Phillip Rivers had to be taken off the ballot of semifinalists.
He got those bennies, though, baby. He got those bennies.
Got to wait a few more years. Also, Fred Taylor and Steve Smith Sr. did not advance from the semifinalist after being finalists last year.
Huh.
That's what happens when you add Larry, Luke, Marshall.
Well, that's kind of Willie
Suggs.
Anderson's situation, right? He probably got squeezed a couple of times.
Yeah. He is. I'm worried he is going to be the bridesmaid and never the bride in this situation. He was really, 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 really good, but offensive lineman, it's almost as hard as a specialist to get in.
Yeah, it's the worst when they go in posthumously. You know?
Justice for Vinatieri. All right. There are multiple different storylines and scenarios at play in the final week of the regular season. So let's take a closer look at the NFL playoff picture next.
Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Before we get into the NFL playoff picture, and we will because that's what Lucas just teased there, I want to hear from Bones Fossil, the Titans special teams coordinator. Coordinators are speaking for the last time this season because obviously the season ends after this week for the Tennessee Titans. And so it will be the last time that Titans fans hear from or see anything from this collection of coordinators as currently constructed. So that's Nick Holtz, offensive coordinator, Denard Wilson, defensive coordinator, and Bones Fossil. Two of the three, you could probably guess which, were asked about would they like to be the Titans head coach? Would they like to be head coaches, period? You want to start with Bones? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question, and my first answer and instinct is absolutely yes. I think it depends on all the things that happen, and if they want to have me, and if I jive with whatever the next steps are for them. But it's mostly for me about the players, just building a relationship with them and watching them grow. We've had a ton of special teams guys, to be honest with you, and you know this, so have significant offensive and defensive roles they've picked up throughout the course of the season. Whether it's Marcus Harris and Jalen Harrell, and James had a great game on defense the other week. And so it feels like the special teams has been in flux personnel-wise, and it's kind of like the feeder system to the offense and defense when they need them, and they're combat ready. And I feel like that's what special teams is. It's our job to help assist in the wins of games, but I think special teams is also our job is to get them combat ready for when offense or defensive roles call, they're ready to go. And I think that's the cool about special teams. It's a little bit more run and hit, a little less maybe schematic or assignment driven. And so when they're ready to go play O or D, I think they are combat ready for running and the hit and the tackling. And I know that's part of my job too, is to get them ready for that.
So we'll get to Denard Wilson, and we can circle back to that with Bones Fossil a little later on, but I just wanted to make sure that we touched on that because I think that is interesting. We're going to talk about Matt Nagy. There's a big piece in The Athletic written by Dan Pompei profiling Matt Nagy as he aspires to be a head coach for the second time in his career. We do have the NFL playoff picture starting to take greater and greater shape at this point in time. We do have a variety of teams that have obviously clinched, and we do still have some things to be sorted out in Week 18. So the teams that have clinched in the AFC, the Broncos, the Patriots, the Jags, the Bills, the Texans, and the Chargers. The Broncos can clinch the AFC's number one seed and the first-round bye and home field advantage with a tie and a New England loss or tie, a New England loss, and a Jacksonville loss or tie. So if the Titans go to Jacksonville and beat the Jags, Denver could be in position to clinch the number one overall seed. Who would be the team that would benefit the most from the number one overall seed in this particular situation? Broncos and Patriots are actually pretty healthy. The Patriots' run defense has taken a bit of a beating so far this season with guys like Milton Williams missing time, and I can't remember they've shut down a couple of other players here in the last couple of weeks. But between the teams that are vying for the number one overall seed, the Broncos have the path, the Patriots have a path, and theoretically Jacksonville is still alive for such a thing too.
Jacksonville is still alive for the one seed. They're also susceptible to blow the AFC South if they do lose to the Titans and the Texans win over the weekend. So there's so many scenarios here where teams can end up either hosting a playoff game or on the road, or entirely out of the playoff picture. So if the Texans beat the Colts at home with Riley Leonard starting and the Titans upset the Jags to play spoiler, Jacksonville's still in the playoffs. They've clinched that. But they would suddenly be on the road. But, yeah, one seed seems unlikely for both Jags and Patriots. They would need a significant – well, I guess the Patriots don't need that much help, right? They really just need Trey Lance and the Chargers to beat the Broncos, which is not a crazy thing that could happen.
Yeah, the two options are a Patriots win and a Broncos loss or tie, or a Patriots tie and a Denver loss.
But Jacksonville would need Denver and New England to lose.
Yes.
On top of beating the Titans, and that seems pretty unlikely.
So the AFC South is still technically up for grabs.
Technically.
As is the AFC North, which will come down to Sunday Night Football between Robert Walsh's Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. How the hell have the Pittsburgh Steelers really lost 4 in a row to the Browns? Did I read that correctly over the weekend? That seems insane to me.
In Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
Maybe
Okay.
I think that's what the clarification is.
Still, I mean, that's kind of crazy to think about. Did you see Myles Garrett take a shot at him? Saying Myles Garrett said they were more concerned with keeping Myles from breaking the sack record than they were with winning the game.
Wouldn't it be insane if he doesn't break that record?
It would be a tragedy.
He needs one. What is he on? He's on like 3 games without a sack?
They play the Bengals, right? I assume?
Yeah, he'll probably get 7.
Okay, he just needs the one. Just a half a sack would tie it. 1 would break it.
It would be criminal if
it
Myles
would be
Garrett
insane
got that
if he
close.
didn't break
Yeah.
it. We were talking about him breaking it against the Titans. That was like a month ago.
Pretty much.
There are 3 winner-take-all games. Not winner-take-all necessarily, but you know what I mean. Ravens-Steelers is win or go home. It is a playoff game. 49ers-Seahawks is winner gets the 1 seed in the NFC. And it's eerily similar to the NFC North last year, where in this situation, there's going to be a 13-win team, or it's possible that a 13-win team is on the road in the playoffs if the Seahawks lose. A 12-win team would be on the road if the Niners end up losing to the Seahawks. That game is in San Francisco. But my favorite scenario of the entire weekend is this Panthers-Bucks thing.
Yeah.
Because Tampa, you would think if you look at that game, it's playoff game. Winner wins the division, loser goes home. But because the Falcons beat the Rams last night, the Bucks would need to beat the Panthers and would need the Falcons to lose to the Saints on Sunday to win the NFC South. So there's a scenario here where the Panthers lose this game, fall to 8-9, and still win the division if the Falcons can beat Tyler Shuck and the Saints.
Our friend Trevor Sikkema of Pro Football Focus tweeted this last night to make me laugh. The Bucks winning on Saturday to tie the Panthers at an under 500 8-9 record, but losing the division title to Carolina due to the Falcons also going 8-9 and changing the tiebreaker, while the actual best team in the division, Saints, sit at 6-11, is truly the peak NFC South experience. Does seem that way.
Fantastic.
All right, so there's a bunch of intrigue on the line in Week 18. It's just about Trevor Sikkema's season, by the way, as we get ready to ramp up the draft coverage and the coaching search coverage and all those things. So we'll look forward to having Trevor be a part of the show in the next couple of months. Coming up next, though, the Music City Bowl will take over our airwaves this afternoon because the University of Tennessee does play. So here are Mike Keith and Ramon Foster on the call. We will preview the Music City Bowl between Tennessee and Illinois coming up next.
11:59, 1 minute from 12 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I'm Lucas Panzica. The LA Rams rallied from down 21, but ultimately fell short at the eliminated Falcons. 27-24, the final on Monday Night Football in Atlanta. The Rams are now 11-5 and can finish as high as the 5 seed in the NFC playoffs. The Nashville Predators outscored the Utah Mammoth on the road 4-3. Steven Stamkos, 2 goals and an assist, including the game-tying and game-winning goals in the third period. The Preds have now won 4 of their last 5, and they're up to 5th in the Central Division. The Tennessee Vols finish out the season in the Music City Bowl this afternoon, facing Illinois, the first ever meeting between the two programs. Both starting quarterbacks are playing in this game. Wide receiver Chris Brazzell, outside linebacker Joshua Josephs, linebacker Arion Carter, and corner Colton Hood make up the Vols opt-outs. Kickoff is at 4:30. Vol Network coverage on The Zone begins at 2. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So we have a Tennessee Vols game day today. We will have coverage, courtesy of the Vol Network, basically for the rest of the afternoon. I think Blaine and Zach are on for an hour, and then that's when the Vol Network coverage takes over. Kickoff is scheduled for 4:30 Central Time between Tennessee and Illinois. Both had seasons that ended up with 8 wins. Both very much, I think, would feel good about putting a 9th win on that season total, given what the expectations were for Tennessee and how they kind of ebbed and flowed throughout the course of the season. How do things feel as a Vols fan right now? 615-737-1045 is the number. You fell short of the playoff, and nobody really talked about it. I mean, maybe there were some Vols fans out there that were optimistic about chances to repeat as college football playoff, or with a college football playoff appearance after making it for the first time last year and getting drummed by Ohio State. We've talked about all the drama that took place in the offseason, all the different moments in time that made you feel optimistic about Tennessee overachieving and then kind of brought you back down to earth towards the end of the season. Tim Banks fired as the defensive coordinator. Jim Knowles not coaching today, but hired as the next defensive coordinator. And now Tennessee sits here with an opportunity to put a nice feather in its cap to end the season. So how do you feel about the state of your football program as the season gets ready to end today?
I feel like there's probably more to lose than there is to gain in a matchup like this, right? You would feel more disappointed in losing to Illinois than you would feel satisfaction in beating Illinois. I think back to when I was at Tennessee, and the peak of the Butch Jones era was winning 8 games in the regular season plus a bowl win. So that is nice to think that kind of a valley of the Josh Heupel era is to go 8-4 and settle for potentially a 9th win in a bowl game. But you can go into the offseason with some momentum. You can see what you have in some young players that will get opportunities. We talked in the last hour about the opt-outs. Chris Brazzell, the most significant on offense, lead receiver, 1,000-yard receiver this year. And you have 2 freshmen that get an opportunity here in Travis Smith and Rodarius Jackson. Which of those 2 kind of sees that opportunity? Ethan Davis at tight end. There's just a lot of guys that could use this game to have a performance that has us talking about them throughout the course of the offseason. And it's going to be a very important offseason for Josh Heupel in Tennessee. I won't say the most important one, but pretty high up there. The pressure's kind of on in 2026 to show a market improvement from 2025. There will be an expectation level of Tennessee's defense next year under Jim Knowles. And you got to go out and probably find your starting quarterback in the transfer portal. And that in and of itself seems to draw the ire of Vols fans. That's by far the most feedback I've gotten on that topic, is why can't we just play one of these freshmen that we have brought in, developed, paid out of high school? Nobody's going to want to come to Tennessee out of high school if they just keep going out and getting transfer quarterbacks. But you have 2 quarterbacks in there right now. 2. No team in the country, regardless of level, is going to go into a season with 2 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster, none of whom have ever started a game at the college level. It's just not going to happen. Now, the question there is, what sort of pedigree does Tennessee bring in? What sort of veteran experience will the quarterback Tennessee brings in have? And will he be the assumed starter? Will there be a competition between he and George McIntyre and Faison Brandon? And that's where it could be interesting to see, potentially, George McIntyre in this game if Tennessee has enough separation there towards the end. I don't think you see a scenario like you did with Miami and Cam Ward the other year, where he played the first half in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and then he sat the second half right, and people complained about it and whined about it.
What a lame-ass thing that was.
It was very lame. But you got it from Miami's perspective, right? Okay, let's see what we have here in this number 2 quarterback before we go out and spend millions of dollars in the portal. And they saw what they had. They said, no, we're going to go get Carson Beck for $4 million. They're in the college football playoff playing for a spot in the semifinal tomorrow night. So Josh Heupel did say, we'll see if the game dictates that George McIntyre gets in, then it does, but he's not going to sit there and act like that's the plan. Best case scenario for Tennessee, they run up the score. Joey Aguilar kind of has his swan song, kind of a much appreciated thank you from Tennessee fans on him coming in and doing what he did this year in what was a weird situation. I feel like he was best case scenario individually for what the expectation was of Aguilar coming in after spring ball, after all the Nico stuff. So it's a nice moment to kind of appreciate Joey Aguilar and hopefully, if the moment calls for it, see some George McIntyre in this game. But I'm just very skeptical that we would see any amount of George McIntyre snaps that would give us any information. Heupel and his staff have already been reticent enough to play young players even in blowout wins. I feel like it's more likely that if Tennessee's up 21 in the fourth quarter, that Joey Aguilar, just gets to kind of finish it out for the last time.
So as far as the game today goes, I don't think there shouldn't be a world in which Tennessee has much of a struggle with Illinois, opt-outs or not. This season, this is a good stat from CBS Sports, Illinois, to the top teams that they played this year, 2 of which are in the college football playoff from the Big Ten, Indiana and Ohio State, they lost by a combined score of 97-26. Now, I'm not saying that Tennessee is Indiana or Ohio State or anywhere close at this point in time, but they are a better team than Illinois. They do have more talent, even with the opt-outs, and I think that should be a pretty comfortable win for Tennessee. As Lucas said earlier, and I very much agree with that assessment, that there is more to lose than to be gained from this particular situation should you not just do what you're expected to do, come out and win the football game.
Yeah, I think it has a chance to be a really good game with what Tennessee is missing on both sides of the ball, an interim defensive play caller, and Illinois is just a competent program under Brett Bielema, right? They're just above a certain level. I don't know what their ceiling is. Again, they were another team coming into the year that was right there on the cusp of the playoff conversation. End up going 8-4. They have that impressive win at home over USC, who's got a bowl game tonight against TCU, I think, to get to 9 wins. And Illinois is just kind of plugging along, beat South Carolina in a bowl game last year. They're going to make life tough on Tennessee. But we mentioned Gabe Akas, the lead sacker for Illinois and for the Big Ten, is opted out. He's going to the draft, 11 sacks on the year, so they'll be without an impact player on defense. And I do think Tennessee should be able to run their offense and find explosive plays and score into the 30s or so and hopefully have enough of a talent disparity to separate in this game.
The SEC hasn't had a great bowl season so far. It's still ongoing, and I don't think that Tennessee would be the latest to fall victim to that. They should be in a favorable situation here. That line has dropped from Tennessee -6.5 to -3 because of the number of opt-outs that they've had. So a closer game, fair to expect, but I still struggle with the idea of Illinois upsetting Tennessee in Nashville.
Yeah, the crowd, obviously. I'll be curious to see what the contingent of Illinois fans is. I don't think I have ever once in my life met a fan of the Illinois Fighting Illini.
There was a fair amount of them at Bridgestone Arena when Tennessee and Illinois played in the, what is it, like the Music City Hoops?
A couple weeks ago.
Whatever it's called. I saw a lot of Illinois, gear, a lot of Illinois blue and orange. It kind of looked like Bears fans walking up and down Broadway that day. So I don't know if there's a lot of Midwest people that live in Nashville, whether it's Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, just because the Midwest is a terrible place to live.
Brad Hopkins.
That's right. Illinois legend, Brad Hopkins. Oh, I wonder if he'll be there. Maybe we'll see him. There is one thing about this game that you just don't get in bowl season, right? You get the two starting quarterbacks that had successful seasons and have hopes and eyes on the NFL draft coming up that are actually playing in this game. That just doesn't really happen that often, right? I don't think it's happened yet in a bowl game involving an SEC team. So you get Luke Altmaier of Illinois, Ole Miss transfer, who's played a ton of football, who Tennessee actually kicked the tires on after the Nico debacle happened in the spring, and Joey Aguilar of Tennessee just trying to finish out their career strong. I do think it has a chance to be a fun game, like an explosive shootout kind of game that will be very enjoyable for those in attendance.
Yeah, I like to use CBS Sports Line, and I like the way that I like a lot of the projections that they have, a lot of the models that they use. The projected score for this game is 36-24 in favor of Tennessee. And I don't know how much to pay attention to season-long trends when it results in a bowl game where there are as many opt-outs as there are on either side of things. Because, for example, Tennessee is 5-7 against the spread this year. Illinois is 7-4. Now, I'm not saying that is something that you should live or die by because, again, the circumstances are going to be different here. That they're not two different teams, but they are going to have some critical differences to the way that we expect them to perform. That short line, though, because I'm trying to figure out how I want to bet this game. And I would have taken Illinois plus 6.5. I think that there is not that big a gulf between these two teams, so I wish I would have taken it early. But as I'm sitting here, 3.5, I don't know. It feels like Tennessee ought to be able to win by a touchdown.
I would think so. Again, I think Tennessee is the more talented team and has a higher upside offensively. Like if you think it's a shootout, who do you lean on to outscore the opponent? Brett Bielema's Illinois with Luke Altmaier or Josh Heupel's Tennessee with Joey Aguilar? I'd probably lean Aguilar, especially with a home-backed crowd, obviously not far from home. In terms of the sense of urgency on who the game means more for, that's kind of a toss-up as well. You know, Illinois is not the kind of program that wants to fire a coach after a couple of years not making the college football playoff. I'd say Josh Heupel is probably going to need to be in that conversation or make the playoff to avoid that conversation next year. But it does feel like Tennessee could use the boost into the offseason a little bit more than Illinois to wash the taste of the Vanderbilt blowout loss out of their mouths from the regular season finale.
I love that Josh Heupel didn't want to practice at Vanderbilt.
Illinois did.
Brett Bielema gave some comments this week about he understood why Tennessee didn't want to practice here. Where did they end up having practice? One of the high schools?
I'm not sure where Tennessee ended up practicing.
Anyway,
to be honest,
that was just a funny side note to this game.
If I'm not, I might be dead wrong. I feel like Tennessee has practiced at Vanderbilt before, but
maybe not with your most recent game.
Maybe not coming off a blowout loss.
Kicking.
Yeah.
Dylan, be like, Clark Lee, give Josh Heupel the keys. Be like, sure, bud. Take it for a spin. Enjoy yourself.
Okay, so Tennessee went to MBA. They went to Montgomery Bell Academy, which, by the way, beautiful facilities over there, I will say. Titans practice there, that one infamous COVID practice.
What a time that was. So we will look forward to the Music City Bowl. The three of us will be there this afternoon. Ramon and Mike Keith will be on the call, and so that'll be a great way for them to end their first season together in Vol Network coverage.
I did talk to Ramon today, and he said that he might opt out of the second half and come and enjoy some delicacies of the Titans Radio Suite.
He's thinking about it.
I invited him to pregame with us, knowing what that entailed, and I thought I had him for a second.
Oh, did he politely decline? He hasn't really been talking to me this week. This is weird because usually we can be chirpy without being on each other's nerves, but he has been kind of snarling at me this week.
Well, because his football team just lost to the Browns, and your football team is looking to. It's in Pittsburgh this weekend.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah, the tension is palpable lately between Bird and Ramon and Slay, for that matter.
No, now this Slay stuff, y'all are going to make me cuss. This Slay stuff is bullcrap because Buck is the one who said, he's the one that started this. Don't start calling. You can call him. Call him. Call him. Call him.
Do it. Punch it in.
Proceed.
You don't even know his number.
I'm looking it up.
You don't know his number.
Can you actually fill me in on this?
Okay.
Well, what's the deal here?
Buck told me that 3HL was discussing having a karaoke night.
Right.
I said, "Oh, we had talked about that. Hopefully they don't leave us out. I would love to go."
Uh-huh.
And it got back to Slay that I said that they were stealing something from us. The whole thing has gotten out of control. And I just want everybody to know that I would never disparage Ron Slay. Ron is my favorite person to talk to at the station, easily.
Man. So it's just spinning on you.
Yes, it is. I'm being overwhelmed right
You've
now.
lost the thread. The narrative has just completely.
He ain't going to pick up. He don't even know
Spun
he's
out.
working. He's in Charlotte right now, working his tail off.
I don't know if I'm doing this right. I don't have a dial tone.
Yeah, well, that's what happens.
Yeah, you're probably not.
That's what happens.
Maybe
Look
next
at
time.
you. Look at Grandpa can't work a phone. Someone come help me with my VCR. Looking ass dude.
I'm sorry. I'm not the one stealing other people's ideas and
I
popping
didn't
them up with
steal
my
no
own.
ideas. I'm not an idea stealer.
Matt Nagy has been listed as a candidate for the Titans head coaching job. And there is an interesting piece on The Athletic about what Matt Nagy would do differently if he gets another opportunity. Let's get to that next. So anytime the Titans coaching search is brought up, Matt Nagy is a name that's going to be brought up. Just checks too many boxes, the relationship with Mike Borgonzi. And Dan Pompei of The Athletic put out an article about Matt Nagy and what he would do differently if he does get another opportunity. What went wrong in Chicago and what he's been doing in Kansas City to prepare for that next chance. But before that, there is some news. The Dallas Cowboys are releasing cornerback Trayvon Diggs. Todd Archer reported it, the ESPN NFL Nation reporter in Dallas. And if he goes through the waiver process and is unclaimed, Trayvon Diggs will be a free agent. 27 years old, second-round pick in 2020 out of Alabama. The thing that I remember about Trayvon Diggs is how outspoken he was when all the Micah Parsons stuff was going on, like in support of Micah, who's one of his closest friends. But otherwise, like, how surprising is this? Injury-riddled year, concussion, played in 7 games, and he's on the outs in Dallas.
Okay, so as I look, because this happened during the commercial break, and I was looking up some information on it, it doesn't seem that surprising because it sounds like they were going to move on from him anyway. There's no guaranteed money left on his deal. He's owed. They could have freed up and will now free up $12.5 million just to move on from him this coming March. I'm looking at a couple of things that Mike Giannitti at Spotrac put out about why it makes sense to move on from him. This is the quote from the last piece that Giannitti wrote about it. They can free up $12.5 million to just move on in March. That's happening. There's no more guaranteed money on his contract. So expect that to be a quick release and a quick turnover there. So if they were going to move on from him anyway, and he's being a bit of a, if he's being a bit petulant, for lack of a better term, not knowing exactly what the dynamic is, but it sounds like it's not been great, then just say, all right, whatever. We don't need the bad energy in the locker room. We're just trying to finish out the season healthy and be in as good a spirits as humanly possible. And if you don't want to be a part of that, bud, kick rocks.
Yeah. Okay. So Matt Nagy, I think some Titans fans are just going to have to accept that his name will continuously be brought up throughout this process,
What's
right?
the pushback?
I don't know. There seems to be, like, majority of Titans fans, maybe we should have put it to a poll today. Like, what's your instant reaction when you hear Matt Nagy as a Titans coaching candidate?
Now that you don't do the polls anymore.
You did put it to a poll.
I did.
Because there does seem to be pushback from it. Matt Nagy, who year one in Chicago went 12-4, won Coach of the Year. I had totally forgotten that was the double doink year.
Yeah.
That knocked the Bears out of the playoffs.
Always good work by Dan Pompei to kind of, to bring you through the thread of a person's journey through the NFL.
Yes. So just to kind of summarize, he talks about how quickly Nagy burst onto the scene as a coaching candidate and then got that Bears job and goes through that first year. He does mention, which I thought was interesting, he didn't have a big Rolodex, that putting a staff together was a big struggle for Nagy, who had only worked under one coach and climbed the ranks very quickly. That first year goes great. Offense is humming. Vic Fangio defense is fantastic. They lose in heart-wrenching fashion. Then year 2, they lose Vic Fangio. A lot of the things offensively kind of stop working. And then I think it's interesting the way he describes how Nagy started to deviate from some of the things that made him successful in year 1. This excerpt where he says, Dan Pompei of The Athletic, as his team unraveled, Nagy became more open to suggestions from players, assistants, and staff members. That resulted in a string of changes in the weekly schedule and routine. Allen Robinson, former Bears receiver, says, quote, with Matt being so personable and being open to opinions, everybody felt their suggestions had a lot of weight as opposed to just being on board and trusting. Does that remind you guys of anybody? Wasn't that a big part of the Brian Callahan experience?
Sure.
As described by Brian Callahan?
Yeah.
Then Nagy goes back to Kansas City. Obviously, this year has been disappointing, but he's rearing up for another try and believes that he has checked a lot of those boxes that let him down in his first stint as a head coach in Chicago.
So he doesn't call plays in Kansas City, and the big part of this, obviously, is because he's working for Andy Reid again. And the most important 2 sentences of this piece for Titans fans are the following. His focus, as written by Dan Pompei, talking about Matt Nagy, quote, his focus will be on leading. He won't be a play caller. The more that I hear about this, the more that I understand the situation that the Titans are in and who is currently running the Titans and the different dynamics that you're going to have to work through, the more that I think he makes all the sense in the world. Now, he could come in here and interview terribly, and Amy Adams-Strunk could be more impressed by somebody who wows her in an interview than Matt Nagy does. And there was an interesting part about how he went about the interview process with Virginia McCaskey, the since passed on Bears owner. Apparently, the McCaskey family and Matt Nagy are from the same part of Pennsylvania. There was a brand of I guess, like, hard pretzels or something like that was in his hotel room the night before he brought it to the interview. It was a big hit because that brand of pretzel is made in the same part of Pennsylvania as where McCaskey and Matt Nagy are from.
The people that he needed to do that with.
So, again, there are still human beings who have flaws making decisions here. Now, I don't think that Matt Nagy was a bad choice in Chicago. I think that he lost the thread, and Dan Pompei articulates how this goes about. And by the way, this happens every year. There was one of these done on Mike Vrabel a couple of years ago about all, the time that he spent away from coaching and his, what was his position technically with the Browns?
Consultant?
It was like a front office consultant for Mike Vrabel.
He was on the practice field, though. He was basically a member of the coaching staff.
Yeah, but he didn't travel with the team, and I think the focus of it was personnel as opposed to, I don't think Mike Vrabel went to learn about coaching from people on the Cleveland Browns staff. I think he went to learn there about how to be more well-rounded if he wanted to do the personnel thing the way that they're letting him do in New England. So the Nagy thing makes all the sense in the world if you think about the things that just got his predecessor fired. All right, you are not calling plays in Kansas City. You do not want to be a play caller in your next position. You are going to focus on the delegation and the leadership that is required to be a CEO of the program, exactly what this place has lacked. The biggest difference between Brian Callahan and Mike McCoy is that Mike McCoy has been a head coach. He understands how to do this job. He is experienced, and maybe he's not the best in the world at it. Maybe he's not even average, Mike McCoy. But I talked about this on the pregame show with Zach and with Blaine Bishop. Mike McCoy feels like an adult in the room that understands, okay, we are going to move in this direction. This is what works. This is what hasn't worked. And we're going to try and be as malleable to the players as humanly possible. That's good enough to make this thing look functional. Matt Nagy has legitimate skills. If you read this piece, he has legitimate skills in this department. And the most important thing in the world is that he's done this job before and he knows what got him fired the last time around. The idea that he failed and that you shouldn't want somebody else's cast off is crazy. I think Mike Vrabel is a better coach for getting fired in Tennessee and will be a better coach in New England than he was in Tennessee. I think there are plenty of coaches. I think Mike McCarthy did things differently, had to reevaluate the way that he did things in Green Bay when he went to Dallas. And Dallas is a very specific situation. But I have no problem with hiring somebody else's fired coach if they truly learn from their past experience and if they're going to apply that to their next job. And beyond that, almost more importantly than the experience required to do that job, to actually understand where your pitfalls were the first time around, is that he has a relationship with the guy that's going to be making the hire. I know Amy's making the hire, so at the end of the day, she matters too. But Mike Borgonzi and him having a relationship for as long as the two were both in Kansas City and for Nagy, 2 different stints, that is such a critical component to making this thing work. That's why I swear to God they screwed this thing up royally when they did not fire Brian Callahan the minute that they fired Rand Carthon, because you just set the thing back another year for no reason other than you didn't want to be wrong. It's one of the biggest mistakes they've made in this entire process. Get a coach and a general manager who are on the same page. And you don't have to hire them at the same time necessarily to do it, but that's what this feels like it could be. I'm not saying that he should be given the job or that he should be the front runner by a mile. He's the betting favorite for what it's worth. But he literally checks all of the boxes of the things that you're looking for. And for some reason, people see him or read his name and have this visceral reaction to it when he's not like a problematic person. Is Jim Harbaugh a better coach for getting fired in San Francisco?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not going to pretend like I know what adjustments he's made.
The whole reason he got fired were him and Jed York were bumping heads.
They had a falling out.
Yeah. Right. So maybe he learned how to manage his relationships with people of power better.
He said nothing but glowing things about the Spanos family the entire time that he's been there. When I was at owner meetings, and they they eat, they interact with each other at a higher volume in a more relaxed setting at owners' meetings anyway. And I'm looking forward to going back to that again in Phoenix this year. But you saw how much the relationship, how basically they went everywhere together, him and Dean Spanos. Like, he is in that dude's hip pocket at every turn because he understands, no, you can't big time your boss that way. The same way that Mike Vrabel tried to big time his boss here, and it didn't work, and he got his head axed for exactly that reason.
We are directly seeing the adjustments that Vrabel has made. Right.
Yes.
Like, he's not going chips in on totally unproven coaches in critical positions the way he did here with his offensive line coach. His first O-line coach hire in New England, Doug Marrone, who's done it at an extremely high level, who's been a head coach in this league, right? Josh McDaniel, like everything Vrabel has done in New England, there are so many things that he has pivoted from on some of the things that he did here that failed him towards the end of his tenure. I don't know if Dan Quinn...
I just keep seeing in the chat, no to Nagy, not selling me on Nagy. Like, what? Nobody's giving me a good explanation other than you don't like the name.
Well, it's a kind of a conundrum in Kansas City that I think happens with any offensive coordinator under Andy Reid, that when the Chiefs are flying high on offense, it's because it's Andy Reid. It's Andy Reid. He's a Hall of Fame coach. He's arguably the best offensive coach in the NFL. When the Chiefs have struggles offensively, it seems to always be on whoever is the offensive coordinator of the Chiefs. It's Matt Nagy or Eric Bieniemy or whoever it might be. And the Chiefs have taken a step back this year in a few categories offensively, and they're about to miss the playoffs for the first time since 2014. And Matt Nagy is getting the brunt of a lot of that blame from Chiefs fans. I think Titans fans are echoing what they're seeing online from Chiefs fans. Titans fans, for the most part, aren't going back and watching Chiefs games offensively to see what they're doing, what kind of different layers Matt Nagy is implementing or helping implement on offense. They're seeing Chiefs fans on Twitter going, please take him. We want to get rid of him. And saying, no, we don't want Matt Nagy.
It's just such a stupid way to go about if you actually care about putting thought into this, rather than just having a knee-jerk reaction that you read off Twitter from a fan base that's pissed that they didn't make the playoffs for the first time in damn near a decade. Like, that is such a loser-ass way to go about the evaluation of this. It's completely unfair to any candidate, not just Matt Nagy, any candidate that you would do this, because I'm sure Titans fans, there's plenty of Titans fans on the internet when Mike Vrabel got hired by the Patriots being like, good, take him.
Well, let me ask this then. Is there a single head coach, a candidate that has been a head coach, that aside from Mike McCarthy, has a better resume as a head coach than what Matt Nagy has done?
Not even close.
Right? Like, you're either going to hire a first-year head coach or you're going to hire Mike McCarthy, who has won a Super Bowl, who by far has the best resume of any candidate. But worth mentioning, Mike McCarthy's hardly, if at all, been mentioned as a candidate by anybody reporting on this. Or you're going to hire someone like Matt Nagy. If you want head coaching experience and you're not going to hire Mike McCarthy, you're not going to find many candidates that have done more than Matt Nagy, winning Coach of the Year in 12 games and a division title with Mitch Trubisky as his starting quarterback.
He is literally, but if you gave Titans fans a blind resume to pick from for who out of all of the candidates that are being talked about, if you didn't put the names on it, you just put the resumes next to one another in a lineup and said, pick the one that you want to be the next Titans head coach. Obviously, there's no scientific way for us to actually execute that experiment, but I guarantee you that 80% of the fans who are asking for a coach in this particular situation would look at the resume of Matt Nagy and be like, give me that guy. Now, that's just there's no harm in me saying anything like that, because obviously that's not an exercise that we can actually do. But there is no Ben Johnson this year, right? There is no Mike Vrabel this year. There's no Jim Harbaugh this year. There's no, like, above and beyond candidate that every fan base that's in the mode of hiring a coach would want. So that's one about the coaching cycle. You're going to have flaws with each and every one of these guys. But I'm talking about the idea of mitigating risk for Cam Ward at the highest level with somebody that has experience in the most important way that is required to have experience. I'm not saying that, who's another offensive-minded candidate that's being talked about for jobs? Clint Kubiak. I don't know that Clint Kubiak wouldn't be good at this. His dad was a head coach. He's been a football lifer. It's basically Brian Callahan 2.0 by resume, yeah? Before he got hired as a head coach. And there are differences in scheme that people smarter about football would be able to articulate better than I. but I don't want to have to go trial and error with a first-time head coach again. Cam is too important for them to screw around. He doesn't have to be.
Take a breath.
That's just stupid. Like it makes me insane when people do this on a regular basis when it's literally the exact thing that they've been bitching and moaning about for 2 years.
Calm down.
Get over it.
Okay, so maybe something that will make Titans fans a little bit more or a little less uneasy about Matt Nagy. So you noted who else has the resume of Matt Nagy besides Mike McCarthy? Well, you would say Arthur Smith. He's a former head coach, former offensive player. He's third on the odds to be the next head coach. The difference in Matt Nagy and Arthur Smith is Arthur Smith calls plays, Matt Nagy does not. The most interesting part of this Dan Pompei article that I read was that Matt Nagy says that he will not call plays again if he is the head coach. So Zach Lyons, who's on after this for an hour, tweeted to him and said, were you saying like he would not physically call plays or he would worry about calling plays taking too much of his time? Dan Pompei responded and said, no, he would unequivocally not call plays moving forward. So when you get Matt Nagy, you are going to get someone who is offensive-minded, but is looking at the whole picture. They're not so worried about having their hands on the offense that they're going to call plays and balance being a head coach. One of the things that, in my opinion, got Brian Callahan into a lot of trouble.
Indisputably.
And that's kind of what separates his resume from Arthur Smith. I know a lot of Titans fans remember him fondly or look at the offense and say, oh, he does a lot of creative things with tight ends or what have you. But I think Matt Nagy would far and away be the better offensive-minded guy to go with if you're comparing Arthur Smith and Matt Nagy.
He could suck in the room and not get this job. And he may not have changed all the things that he's telling Dan Pompei that he's changed. You don't know that one way or the other. I don't know how it would go. All I know is you need an adult in the room. And of the people whose resumes are being provided out there, this is the person that knows how to do this job the most.
All right, so we can mercifully take a break from you just yelling at people. I would like to just present a question to Titans fans. I would be curious, understanding Mike McCarthy, like on paper, for most people is probably the slam dunk best candidate, and that's understandable. Putting McCarthy aside, what candidate would you most point to, or what candidate do you most gravitate towards as a Titan fan that's not Mike McCarthy? And I would ask, what is that candidate's resume next to Matt Nagy, who has been a head coach and a coach of the year, and understanding things fell apart and Vic Fangio left and the defense got worse and he dropped the play calling and then took it back and then dropped it again and then they flamed out. And now he's resetting for another run at it, a la Dan Quinn or some of the other examples we've cited. I just don't think you're going to find a candidate that has anything close to a Matt Nagy kind of resume that's not Mike McCarthy, if you want head coaching experience, which I feel like 9 out of 10 Titans fans have said they want in the next head coach. When we pose that question, the prompt, what's the number one quality you want in a coach? Someone who's done it, someone who's been a leader, who can set a culture. Well, there's not that many of those guys out there. There's certainly not that many that have won Coach of the Year and have been around one of the best organizations in the NFL and have a direct relationship with the current Titans general manager. Matt Nagy does check those boxes. So I'd just be curious to see who folks would present aside from Mike McCarthy.
Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045 is the number. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
It is a football week and a football weekend upcoming, which for you should mean Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Download the Hattie B's app. Go to HattieB.com. Let them fuel your watch party or your tailgate. You're going out to the Music City Bowl today at Nissan Stadium. Get yourself a couple of buckets of Hattie B's Hot Chicken with a quart or two of those scratch-made sides that taste like Grandma made them. My favorite, the pimento mac and cheese. Try it out. Thank me later. HattieB.com. Visit any one of their 7 Middle Tennessee locations, or you can download the Hattie B's app, and you get a free dessert simply by downloading the app. That's all that it takes. The holiday is here. The new year is being rung in. That means some of the best football that we are going to get all year long. Get it right when it comes to fueling your watch party or tailgate, and head to HattieB.com or download the Hattie B's app and pick up some hot chicken for your football and New Year's weekend.
Last call for phone calls if you got them. Then it's just about Music City Bowl time. You got Blaine and Zach for an hour, and then Vol Network coverage will take over. We'll see what the University of Tennessee does hosting. Well, I guess it's not technically hosting. Are they the home team? I mean, they are going to be the home team, but are they technically the home team at Nissan Stadium?
They are not technically the home team.
Okay.
I believe Tennessee will be in white.
And Illinois wearing all blue. Carrie is in Greenbrier with a question. What's up, Carrie?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I was just wondering why no one is talking about Jim Schwartz as a head coaching candidate for this organization. He's been a head coach. He's been a coach here before, so he knows the family and the town and the entire organization. and he took Detroit to the playoffs, for crying out loud. So he's considered one of the best defensive minds in the game, and that's where we seem to need the most help for this team. So I'll listen to you guys talk about it.
We did 3 weeks ago when the Titans played at the Browns. I brought it up and I got yelled at. So not yelled at, but I was, it was considered a position that was easy to dismiss because people considered Jim Schwartz, like Matt Nagy, a failed coach, that they didn't necessarily like the idea of it. Just seems, I guess to some fans it seems stale to do the retread coach thing. I don't know what makes Mike McCarthy this fresh, young, hot coaching candidate and Matt Nagy not, when there's damn near 20 years of difference between them. But I guess that's just perception versus reality. I would be okay with I'd certainly talk to Jim Schwartz. I don't know if he wants to be a head coach.
Hasn't coached since 2013 as a head coach. 2 seasons with the winning record, 6-10 in 2010 with Detroit, 10-6 in 2011. That was his only postseason. Did not win a division title, finished 29-51 as a head coach.
And Detroit was not in a great situation when he was there. And they had Matt Stafford and Megatron, but not much else.
You're hiring him for his defense, right? And then otherwise, again, if we're doing the Matt Nagy thing, take Jim Schwartz and his career as a head coach next to Matt Nagy's career as a head coach. Matt Nagy is the more accomplished head coach. So if you're that upset about the idea of hiring Matt Nagy, I wouldn't necessarily understand bringing up the idea of hiring Schwartz, who had a worse time actually leading a football team. I'm not saying he'd be a bad candidate, but I just wouldn't see that logic.
Am I wrong for wanting a coach for the Titans that does not call plays as the head coach? Like, I'm not saying that you should immediately rule them out if they are interested in calling plays as the next coach, because obviously they had some level, maybe it depends on the situation. Like, Vrabel was a terrible defensive coordinator, and he ended up being a fine head coach. There are good offensive coordinators. I don't know if people consider Brian Callahan a good offensive coordinator, but I think he was good enough at what he was doing at the time and then got promoted to the point of failure, and he wasn't very good at all. I kind of just want somebody who's focused on the big job and is comfortable delegating in that situation, even if it ends up leading to some level of turnover on your coaching staff. I don't know. I'm not definitive about that, but I feel like that's the way that I'm leaning right now.
But then aren't you just putting up walls and boxes, which is the thing that you've railed against this entire time? As
far as like how to think about candidates?
Yeah, all you said in this process is don't box yourself into something the way you did with Callahan. And now you're saying, well, no matter what, I don't want a coach that's going to call plays.
I didn't say no matter what.
Boxing yourself into something.
I said I'm leaning in that direction. I literally just said I'm not going to be definitive about it, but I'm leaning in that direction. I do stand by the idea that you should talk to as many people as humanly possible. Marcus Freeman isn't going to come out as a head coach in the NFL. It sounds like he's going to stay at Notre Dame. He put out a statement yesterday on Twitter. Curt Cignetti is not leaving Indiana to become an NFL head coach or coordinator or anything like that. But these are still people, Jim Schwartz, like you should talk to as many people as humanly possible to give yourself that kind of baseline and allow yourself an open-minded approach to how you want this thing to look without going in with preconceived notions about what the next Titans coach absolutely must be. I do feel that way. But I think that we have seen enough issues with this. How many people are really excellent at being both play caller and head coach in the NFL? Like genuinely excellent. Not like they can do it.
I would throw Mike McDonald in there.
Agreed.
Calls the defense. I do the same thing for Texans head coach.
DeMeco Ryans.
Sean McVay.
Yeah, Sean McVay.
Calls the offense. I would go with...
Is Zach Taylor not in there, I guess, at this point?
Their offense isn't the problem, man. I don't know what to do with Zach Taylor.
Andy Reid for the Chiefs, like this year aside, I think he does an excellent job calling their offense.
Liam Cohen's done a hell of a job.
Liam Cohen's been awesome.
I think there are more coaches. I was trying to go through the league and see which coaches do not call plays. The two that I know instantly, Nick Sirianni and Raheem Morris, both of them allow their coordinators to call plays.
Which wasn't always the case.
No. And Sirianni had to give up his play calling. John Harbaugh does not call plays for offense or defense with the Ravens.
Pete Carroll.
That's a good one. I didn't think about that.
Pete Carroll calls the defense?
No, I'm saying he does not.
Oh, okay.
He does not.
Aaron Glenn doesn't call the Jets defense, right?
I think he does, but there was a bunch of gray spots in there that I didn't know. But I think there are more often than not the coach calls a number of plays.
Vrabel doesn't. But yes, I think if we were to sit here and break it all down, not having the time to do that, I do think.
No, it was Steve Wilkes because they fired him.
Yeah. I do think Robert's right that the edge would probably go to there being more play calling coaches in the NFL than none. It's probably pretty even, though. Like Jim Harbaugh doesn't call plays. Dan Quinn doesn't call plays. John Harbaugh doesn't call plays. It's probably a pretty even split.
I guess my question would be, and this is there are things that I think there are questions that were missed, and Blaine talked about this really well, and I don't know if he's brought it up on their show after us, but we were just talking about it on the pregame. Like the interview process for Brian Callahan, were the right questions being asked about his experience and his play calling experience versus how much got glossed over because he's a smart guy. He can explain all this stuff very, very well. He's very pleasant to deal with. He's the antithesis of what his predecessor was. And, okay, we can dismiss some of that because, he wasn't calling the plays necessarily, but he was in the box. He's the second set of eyes. Okay, turns out, totally different experience from the sideline.
A question, because I don't know the answer to it, is the same people outside of Mike Borgonzi that interviewed Brian Callahan to be the head coach interviewing the next head coach?
I don't definitively know the answer to that because I know Burke Nihill was involved in the Brian Callahan hiring. I don't know what his level of involvement explicitly would be with this. I'm sure all of them are going to be involved in certain rounds, like all of the decision makers for Amy versus Borgonzi versus Brinker versus Burke Nihill. But I know that was something that was specific to the Callahan thing that I don't know applies to this next one.
Obviously, Borgonzi is the new voice in that equation.
And that gives me cause for optimism because my main qualm with the last way it was done is like, okay, respect to Burke, but like it's kind of like the Kanye West thing about Lady Gaga, where it's like, I love Gaga, I love her music, but why the hell is she the creative director for Polaroid? What does she know about cameras? Like, what does he know about football, the odds and ends, ins and outs? He's not a football guy. Like, so why would he be involved unless he's out there to tell you outside perception or how it affects the new stadium? Why the hell would he be involved in something like this?
I am inclined to agree with you, but I will tell you that when you get opportunities because you succeed at what you're good at. Burke Nihill has been excellent in navigating the process of getting the Tennessee Titans organization and the city of Nashville a new stadium in 2027. He has been named team president and CEO in large part due to that success. That gives you a level of input to certain situations that I think you deserve to have until you're proven that the depth may be a little too much for you there, or at least you can learn from your experiences. They got it loud wrong this last time around. There's no reason to think that a bunch of smart people in a room who are accomplished at what they've done in their careers can't learn from their mistakes and get it right the second time around, which is the most optimistic approach I can say about what I think about the Tennessee Titans. They're allowed to learn and get better from all of this nonsense, just because it's been nonsense on the front end. And I think that they're very capable of doing that. Will they do it? We'll just have to stay tuned and find out. Polls.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Did the Falcons do a good job building their team? 50.5% say yes.
Yeah, pretty split on that. I feel, I don't know, you feel pretty good about everything that's in Atlanta except for the quarterback, right?
Yeah, if they would have hit on that, I feel like our opinion of it would be drastically different.
And we don't know that they didn't hit on it necessarily.
I think that's probably the reason we're ambiguous on whether we like it or not, because like we don't know. But they also, again, to recap that situation, they didn't have to give up any future assets to do that. They gave up more future assets to get James Pierce than they did their quarterback. So if you ever get a guy who could potentially be your guy and you don't have to give anything up for it, I think that's an okay swing.
Should Titans fans want Kyle Pitts as a 2026 free agent at tight end? 68% are saying no.
I understood what Nate Washington was saying about it being an obvious, a more higher end opportunity, but I just don't know if a I don't know, a tight end that's a very specific kind of a player is worth the kind of spend that they would have to make on that.
Who you got, Tennessee or Illinois? 76% say Tennessee.
That feels right.
3-point favorites in the Liberty Music City Bowl. You can hear it right here on The Zone, 4:30 the kickoff. And what was your initial reaction to seeing Matt Nagy as the betting favorite to be the next Titans head coach? A bunch of head shaking emojis. Adam, a Chiefs fan, says, love it. Get him out of Kansas City. Oh, Titans fan, or we'll say Johnson Smith says, it's sad because I still hope to see them be champions, but their decisions have shown me it will not be possible. Jake says, I'm quitting. Titans better, says disappointed. I don't see a single positive reaction to this.
The drama.
That's kind of crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
Those are the polls.
That's going to do it for us today. Enjoy Blaine and Zach for a little bit, and then the Music City Bowl after that. If you're hanging out at Nissan Stadium, maybe we'll see you.
Selling your home can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be. Get a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. There are no showings, no open houses, no stress. Work with the #1 real estate team in the U.S. and close with confidence. Go to markspain.com today.
Smashville hockey. Around here, it can sound like a language of its own. But hey, if you can pronounce Demumbrian, then names like Yossi, Shea, Marchessault will roll right off the tongue. Nashville Predators, only in Smashville.
One of the largest sports books east of the Mississippi, Circa Sports Kentucky, is now open. Catch all your favorite games on an 80-foot screen with stadium-style seating and live VSiN broadcast daily. Circa Sports, now open at the Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
My dad and I used to golf together all the time, but when he hurt his back, it was over.
To have your son want to spend time with you is amazing. That's why my chronic back pain has been so heartbreaking. Surgery, fused bones, long recovery. No way, not for me. A friend recommended stem cells, so I gave Kellum Stem Cell Institute a call.
I'm glad you're out on the course.
Yeah, it's really good.
Call the Kellum Stem Cell Institute today. Swing still looks just okay, though.